It was a quiet night in the Hidden Leaf Village, at least at the moment. There was a mob forming in the street, and they were all converging at one place outside an old apartment complex. Now, this might seem sketchy, and you're probably asking yourself why they were there at all. Was the landlord hated? It varies, really. The landlord was a crabby old lady. That's a red flag right there. Was anyone who lived there hated? Yes, one person in particular, 7-year-old Naruto Uzumaki, and at the moment, she saw the mob outside and was terrified. Yes, you heard right. This Naruto is a girl, and she usually goes by Naru. However, recently, she started using the Henge no Jutsu to make herself look like a boy. It was Lord Third's idea, as the last time she was attacked, she was pushed to the brink of death. The mob would have gone further and raped her had Kakashi not showed up. This was 3 months ago, and since then Kakashi has been keeping a closer eye on her. However, tonight he was out on a mission with Itachi. So there wasn't a whole lot of people that Naru could rely on this time. So she did the best she could and hid herself under the bed, ready to move at a moment's notice. Just then, the door was busted open and people started flooding the apartment, tearing apart everything in sight. Nu still couldn't fully understand why the villagers had such hatred for her. From what Kakashi and her aunt Makoto told her, she was the daughter of the 4th Hokage Minato Namikaze Kusha Uzumaki, the ville's strongest kunoichi. Unfortunately, they were dead, and since almost everyone is in their own little world, they won't listen to reason unless Lord Third beat it into their skulls. Nu knew the actual reason why the villagers hated her, and it was because she was the Ginriki of the cub. Nokatsun, the 9-tailed fox. Makoto made his presence aware to Nu recently and so far has been getting along with Q. The villagers thought that Nu was Q in human form, so they keep trying to kill her as their way of avenging the people they lost in B's rampage. Everyone on the Shinobi Council knew this to be false and were highly disappointed in the villagers. Just then, Nu saw that there was a shinobi among the crowd and she panicked inside. The shinobi saw her, sneered, sent chakra through the floor to disrupt Nu's henge and announced, "There she is, the demon's hiding under the bed." Everyone tried to grab her, but Nu was already out from under the bed and out the window. She ran through the streets, avoiding all populated areas, crying, "I have to get out of here. I got to find Makoto Basin. She'll help." Nu thought, "Yeah, that's definitely your safest bet, Kit." B said from inside his seal. Nu found out earlier that B could talk to her anytime during the day in her head and offer advice and chakra, though he mostly abuses the link to just be a perv. The shinobi from earlier caught up with Naru and threw a kunai at her leg. It hit directly in her thigh and she screamed from the pain. She fell, her left leg covered in blood. The shinobi landed in front of her and said with an evil grin, "Where do you think you're going, demon?" The fun part's about to start. Naru tried to get away, but saw that she was cornered. She couldn't run, she couldn't hide, she was backed up against a wall. Nobody was coming to save her. This time. No, 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 no. Nu whimpered. The villagers were catching up to them as they formed around the two. "Go away, please go away, I didn't do anything. Dabo." Nu sobbed. The crowd started getting closer. Soon she would feel pitchforks stabbing her, people beating her, and God knows what else. Please, no, they wouldn't listen. They just kept coming closer, ready to go in for the kill. All of a sudden, she felt a heat go to her eyes. One that wasn't from the tears. The heat was from chakra innately going to her eyes. It can't be. Q said shocked. If this is what he thinks it is, then things were going to get crazy soon. Kit, listen to me. Send chakra to your eyes. And once enough has gone through, imagine pushing everyone away with the air. Do it, he shouted, praying Nu does this in time. He may not admit it, but he was fond of the little blonde girl. When she was happy, it was hard not to be mad at her toothy grin. Naru followed B's instructions and sent chakra to her eyes. Then her vision changed slightly and she felt power coursing through her. She imagined pushing everyone away as she screamed, "Go away." As soon as Nero screamed, a huge pulse of air was sent from her body in all directions, sending everyone flying away. The shinobi stood his ground by using chakra to tether himself to the ground, but was still sent backwards a few feet. You little by dash before he could finish this curse. Kakashi appeared out of nowhere and knocked him out. Kakashi and Kakashi looked at Naru. His eyes widened as he panicked. "Naru, are you okay?" I'm fine, sort of. Kakashi noticed that Nu's eyes had changed, and he was beyond shocked. They weren't their normal blue color. Instead, her eyes were glowing silver. Her hair, once pure golden blonde, now had red streaks going through them, looking like she had highlights. Kakashi looked around and saw that everyone was scattered across the area, and there was a small crater where Naru lay. Nu, what exactly happened here? And how did your henge fall? He asked. Mob happened. That guy ratted me out. Dadabo. He used chakra to mess up the jutsu too. I ran but he caught me. Then Kyuubi told me to send chakra to my eyes. And then this happened, Naru said, gesturing to everything around her. Okay, hold still, Kakashi said as he reinforced the henge, turning Nu back into her male disguise. Nar. Alright, now, I'm going to need you to stop the chakra flow to your eyes. Okay, Nar just nodded as he stopped the chakra. His eyes turned blue again, but some of the red streaks remained. Ugh, Kakashi, I don't feel so good, Nar said as he passed out from exhaustion. Kakashi carried Nar to his apartment so he could recover. He couldn't send him back to the complex, especially after what just happened. So, Kakashi summoned Pakin and told him to get Makoto as quickly as possible. Out of everyone in the village, Nu was especially close to Kakashi and Makoto. The reason for this was because they were the only family she had. The civilian council was insistent that Naru be alone and that no one can adopt her. However, Hine, the third Hokage, gave Kakashi and Makoto permission to look after her. After all, Kakashi was like Nu's older brother, and Makoto was Naru's godmother. Even Jiraiya of the Sannin caught wind of this and lent a hand. He was her godfather after all, and he'll be damned if Nu lived without knowing any of her family. Kakashi was treating Naruto's leg wound when he heard someone banging on his door. He went and saw it was Makoto and she looked scared out of her mind. I got your message. Is Naruchan okay? She asked, hoping the little girl was okay. Well, aside from the already healing stab wound to her thigh, she's fine. I got to her before they did anything. Kakashi replied, oh, thank God. Makoto let go the breath she didn't know she was holding. Then she saw Naruto sleep on Kakashi's couch and noticed something was off. Makoto saw the red streaks in his hair and memories of Kusha flooded back. Kakashi-san, what happened to her? She asked. Well, one of the shinobi that was supposed to keep the crowd away from her ratted her out. They chased her until she suddenly activated her Kiki Genkai. Makoto gasped. You don't mean hi. Naru inherited Kushinan's Dojutsu. The Tsukijin and Kyuubi helped her activate it. Kakashi said, unsure whether to feel proud of her or worried. What are we going to do? Well, I have to see Lord Third anyway, so I'll report what happened. Could you take Nu back to the Iha district? I know it's a lot to ask, but I'll do it. Makoto cut him off. Kakashi gave her one of his eye smiles and said, thanks. The disguise will hold for the night. B's making sure of that, right? The last thing we need is giving Sasuke-chan and Itachi-kwan a scare. Sasuke and Itachi didn't know Nar was really a girl. For them, it was odd since she spends a lot of time playing with them. Heck, Nu and Sasuke were best friends, so the fact that she hasn't told them worried Makoto. However, she wasn't going to tell them anything. That's something Naru has to do on her own. Alright, I'll take her now. You better inform Jarasama about this, too. He'll want to know. Makoto informed. Hi, Kakashi waved off. Makoto lifted Naruto off the couch and took him back to her estate. Inside Naru's mindscape, Kid, wake up already. B's voice echoed in her head. Nu woke up to find herself in her mindscape again. She was in front of the seal with QB looking right at her. B, what happened? She asked. The events of the previous night were fuzzy in her head. TCH, you really forgot already. Dumbass. Hey, I am not a dumbass. Dabo. I just can't remember what happened that well. That's all. Nu yelled. It was true. While most would describe Nu as the stereotypical dumb, happy-go-lucky blonde, she really wasn't. Since her teachers at the academy refused to teach her anything and pretty much rigged her education and test scores, Nu had to constantly sneak into the library and learn the stuff herself. The only sensei there that didn't treat her badly was he didn't have a bias. He didn't rig her scores and made sure she learned something. Right, of course. How could I forget that? Who? In a sarcastic tone. Well, another mob attacked you, but this time you awakened your Keki Genkai. Wait, I have a Keki Genkai. Nu asked, shocked and hoping he wasn't messing around. She remembered reading about them. So, if was just messing around, she was going to hurt him. Yes, you do. It was your mother's dojutsu that Sukin. I only know some of the basics of it, so you'll have to ask the Iha woman if you want to know more. Of course, QB was lying somewhat about this. He knew its full capabilities, but Nu wasn't ready for that yet. Alright, I'll ask Makoto Basin later. Then a thought hit Nu, and she got worried for a second. QB, where's my body right now? Relax, Kit, you're resting at the Iha compound. That woman, Makoto, took you there to recover. You should be waking up shortly, QB reassured, a little irritated. He was never a fan of the Iha, but Makoto and Itachi were the few exceptions. Sasuke was still debatable. Alright, well, I guess I'll see you later then. Nu waved goodbye, smiling brightly as she left her mindscape. Iha compound. UG. Nar groaned as he woke up. Naruto-chan, you're awake. Naruto turned to see Makoto hugging him fiercely. In Makoto Basin, where am I? You're at the Iha compound. Kakashi and I agreed you should rest here. In the meantime, Naruto remembered what happened, but still couldn't make sense of some of it. Just as Naruto was getting up, Sasuke walked into the room. Oh, Nar, you're awake. You all right, bud? He asked. Yeah, just a little sore data. Naruto answered. Yeah, I heard what happened. Anyway, Mom, Dad wants to know when breakfast will be ready. Tell him it'll be done shortly. Makoto said. Sasuke just nodded and went back to the dining area. Makoto went into the kitchen, grabbed some of the food she made, and gave it to Naruto. Here, Feigaku doesn't know you're here, so I want you to go and wait in Sasuke's room. I'll let him know you're up there. That way, you two can sneak out. Okay, thanks, Makoto. Basin, Naruto went upstairs and ate. While Feigaku was Minato's teammate, there was friction between them, so he wasn't too thrilled about his sons associating with Nu. Yes, he was aware of her gender. Actually, almost everyone shinobi knew. The only people that didn't know were the children and the villagers, which confused Naru somewhat because she assumed that Sasuke would find out eventually through his parents, but they never told him. Makoto was definitely not happy about how Fugaka treated Naru, and that's part of the reason why she tried so hard to raise her properly. Once everyone ate their breakfast, Naruto and Sasuke snuck out of the house. They usually trained together since they were classmates. Sasuke liked having Naruto around because while he didn't seem that bright at first, Nar proved him wrong. That and he wanted to be friends with him because of who he was, not because of his clan name. As they spent time together, Sasuke realized that his mom and Nar were close because of Naruto's mother. This eased some tension whenever he was invited over. Heck, even Itachi didn't mind having Nar around. So, is it true that you made that big hole by the market area? Sasuke asked, curious. Naruto winced at the question. Naru just groaned on the inside. Seriously, Dadabo, is it that obvious? She said in her head. Yeah, it is, dummy, QB deadpanned. Naruto just sighed, scratched his head, and said, yeah, I still don't know how it happened. It all happened so fast, Dabo. Well, what do you remember? Easy. The villagers set up another angry mob to kill me. A shinobi ratted me out and almost killed me. When the mob surround me, I just blew them away. Dabo, Naruto said animatedly. Sasuke just gave him the classic Iha glare that said he didn't believe it for a second. It's true though. Apparently, it's because I have a dojutsu kind of like you're sharing. Sasuke took a spit take and looked at him as if he grew a second head. What? That's not possible. Only the Akiya and Hyuga clans have dojutsus. Well, I heard that mine came from the Uzumaki clan. My mom was an Uzumaki. Sasuke pondered at what Nar said. Was it possible? There was only one way to find out. Nar, could you show me your dojutsu? Naruto's face beamed as he said, heck yeah, just give me a second. Then he started focusing chakra towards his eyes. He felt his vision change again. Only this time, he can make out the changes. Everything turned a little brighter through Naruto's vision. He activated his tuck again. His eyes turning silver and the red streaks in his hair becoming more apparent. Sasuke looked dumbfounded at this and said, wow, you weren't kidding. So, what's this dojutsu called? Apparently, it's called the Tsukigen. Don't know what that means, though, Datao. Naruto said sheepishly. Well, it's certainly fitting. Tsukigen literally stands for moon eye and your eyes are silver like the moon. Naruto looked surprised and asked, really? 'Cause that would explain why everything's a little brighter, Dadabo. Yeah, and your hair's got red streaks, too. Didn't you notice? That had Nar really curious, so he looked for a mirror. When he found one, he looked at himself and saw that Sasuke was right. In her head, Nu was a little ecstatic. Wow, my hair looks awesome. It's blonde like dad's and red like mom's. Heck, even my eyes look awesome. She stared a little more at her eyes and wondered to herself. I wonder if Sasuke-kwan likes them. Naru will not admit it to anybody alive, but she liked Sasuke, mainly because he was one of the first people that didn't see her as a freak. Or a demon, unlike his fangirls who only liked him because of his looks, skills, clan status, and attitude. Though, she was still worried about how he'd react to seeing her true gender. Ah, is someone going gaga over Akia again? Wah, hubby mocked, laughing. He loved messing with her. Nu blushed heavily and shouted at him, shut up, you stupid fox. One thing she absolutely hated was being compared to Sasuke's fangirls. Just thinking about them gave her chills. Sakura Haruno was one of the worst, as she was easily the most obsessed fangirl, and she's usually abusive to Nar whenever he tried to be nice to her. Naru just blamed her parents since they were often part of the mobs that tried to kill her, therefore being the bad influence. Naruto tried shrugging the emotions away and said, wow, I look awesome, Dabo. Just wait until I get my Sharingan. I'll put you out of business, dope, Sasuke said arrogantly, his Akia ego rising. What was that team? The two glared at each other for a minute and just broke down laughing. They always messed around like that. Around other people, they try to act like they hate each other to ease suspicion. Instead, they just look like friendly rivals to everyone. So, their name-calling turned into their nicknames for the time being. Seriously though, do you have any idea what that does? Nope, not a clue. I was going to ask Makoto Basin later about it. Sasuke almost fell at Naruto's attitude about the situation. Honestly, smart or dumb, you never change, do you? Sasuke exasperated. Nope, Naruto declared, giving a toothy grin. After that day, Naru did ask Makoto what her bloodline really was. Makoto explained that the Tsukijin was a Dojutsu exclusive to the Uzumaki clan, and it was powerful enough to rival all other Dojutsus. Since she had some scrolls from Kusha, Makoto figured it was only right that Nu learned about her heritage, though she would have preferred to wait until Nu was older. But the little girl was relentless. So Makoto explained that Tsukigen's abilities with QB chipping in at some points. Apparently that Tsukigen has some abilities similar to the Sharingan and Bakugan. Like the Sharingan, that Tsukigen could help predict and copy an opponent's movements to an extent. However, it cannot copy jutsus. Like the Bakugan, the Tsukigen allows Naru to see a person's chakra network as well as their chakra points. She could even see through walls if someone was on the other side. The only downsides is that Nu would have to focus in order to see through walls even more so to see the chakra network in detail, and she doesn't have the Bakugan's near 360 degrees view. Plus, like other dojutsu, it could detect Jinjutsu easily, but she cannot cast Jinjutsu with it like the Sharingan can. There was apparently one ability exclusive to the Sukin that makes it arguably the most dangerous, powerful dojutsu, but neither Makoto nor Q would tell her. They simply said that Naru will know when it was time. 1 month after Tsukigen awakening, Nu was training at one of the training grounds. Since nobody was around and it was close to nighttime, she dropped her hench. So far, she's proven to be very versatile with her dojutsu. However, almost everyone that knew about it told her not to use it until after she became a genin. Makoto, Kakashi, and Jiraiya were very adamant about it. So, Naru switched it up during training. She practiced her taijutsu both with and without her toucan active. Nu can see there's a clear difference between the two, but is still managing nonetheless. Now, she could actually keep up with Sasuke somewhat during her sparring matches. Her ninjutsu was improving, too. Q.B. helped her discover that she has abnormally large chakra reserves. So, they use it to her advantage. He also helped Nu find out her nature affinity wind style. So, at the moment, she was practicing her first jutsu wind style air bullet. It was similar to the Iha clan's fireball jutsu, the difference being clear. One was made of fire, the other one was made of compressed air. Nu found that depending on how much chakra she put into it and how long she took to fire, the damage varies. She could fire a large powerful air bullet that takes a while to charge but destroys the log, or fire several small ones rapid fire that make dents in the log. Imagine what this could do on a person. When she finished her training, she heard screams nearby. Naru quickly activated her Naruto disguise and went to investigate. While heading to the source of the screams, he ran into Sasuke. "Sasuke," Naruto called out. Sasuke jumped and saw that it was only his friend. "Oh, Nar, it's you," he said, suddenly relaxing. "Hey, what's going on? I heard screams all the way from training ground 1. I don't know, but it's coming from the Iha district," Sasuke said in a worried tone. Both he and Nar palled at what this could mean. Giving each other one last glance, they both rushed to the Iha district. When they got there, it took everything they had to not cry and vomit. There were bodies everywhere. Blood practically painted the floor beneath them. The bodies varied from the elderly to even children younger than them. What the hell? What is this?" Sasuke asked, not believing what he was seeing. Nar activated his toucan to check and see if this was a Jinjutsu, but it wasn't. "To their dead, all of them," Naruto said breathlessly, deactivating his Dojutsu. "I have seen some sick acts in my time, but I never thought I'd be this nauseated by the Akia's extinction." "Oh, the irony," Q said, disgusted by this. Bai hates the Akia, save for a select few, so for him to say this was saying something. "Nar, Sasuke," a voice called from above. They looked and saw Itachi land behind them. "Nissan, what's going on? What happened to everyone?" Sasuke said, tears rolling down his face. "Someone is killing everyone in the clan, no matter what the age," Itachi said with a heavy heart. "Everyone?" Naruto and Sasuke both started. Itachi nodded and suddenly a seal appeared on his hand. He looked at it and had an expression that held both panic and rage. "They're in the main compound," he exclaimed before he bolted toward his house. It took a second before Naruto and Sasuke put 2 and 2 together. This person was going to kill Sasuke and Itachi's parents. The two raced after him, somehow keeping up. "You two need to stay out of this," Itachi reprimanded. "Oh hell no. Makoto Basin is one of the only people I have left that knew my family. I'm not letting my aunt die," Naruto declared, activating his toucan to emphasize his point. Sasuke simply grunted in agreement. Knowing he couldn't dissuade them, Itachi let them follow him to the main compound. When they got there, blood stained the doors. They barged in to see Feigaku being beheaded by someone from the shadows. Makoto screamed at the sight of her husband's murder. Naruto and Sasuke just looked on in horror. "Mother," Itachi cried out, instantly moving to protect her. "Itachi," Makoto said, sounding confused. The reason for this confusion was then shown as the figure stepped into the moonlight. It was Itachi, or at least someone disguised as him. Everyone was shocked at this, wondering who was who. Sasuke looked at Nar, expecting him to be able to tell the difference. Nar focused and saw that the Itachi that just killed Feigaku was indeed the fake. He quickly deactivated the Sukin. That way, the enemy would be ignorant. "Who the hell are you? You fake," Nar shouted, not caring who it was. At this point, he was pissed and QB could feel it. "Kit, calm down. You can't take this guy. I recognize this stench. Is one of those damned elders. Forgot his name, though," QB said in Naruto's head. The imposter just looked at Nar with indifference before moving behind him faster than most of them could track. Before a fatal hit could be dealt, Itachi blocked it with his sword and sent out a chakra pulse. The purpose of this was to not only push the enemy away, but it would also disrupt the henge. Sure enough, the pulse did its job by pushing the intruder outside. And Itachi was livid when he saw who slaughtered his clan. "Danzo Shimura, Danzo-sama, what is the meaning of this?" Itachi said, trying to rein in his rage. "As I told you before, Itachi, I am making steps towards peace. The Iha were planning a coup diet. Words alone would not dissuade them. With this, the village is safe," Danzo stated in an eerily calm tone. Safe. You wanted this massacre to happen from the beginning. Didn't you?" Itachi screamed, which is definitely unlike him. Seeing that things were about to get out of hand, Naruto activated the seal to let Jiraiya and Kakashi know he's in trouble. They put it on Naru as a sort of panic button. That way, if she was in any sort of danger, they'd know and come to her aid. Now, all that had to be done was wait for them to arrive. "You never trusted the Iha. No matter what we did, even when we were on your side and wanted peace, you stab us in the back. Just like what you did with Shiryu," Itachi snarled. Makoto gasped and asked, "Words, what does he have to do with this?" Shiro was going to use his Kodo Amatsukami to get father to stop the coup. We were going to prevent a hostile takeover through peaceful means. Itachi explained sadly, but then he turned to Danzo with disgust and spat. Danzo didn't want peace between the village and our clan. He wanted us dead. Everyone just stared in shock at this information. All those people, even the children. How could you? Sasuke whimpered. Then he stared Danzo in the eye and shouted. How could you do such a thing? Itachi. Makoto and Naruto stared at him shocked. Sasuke's eyes changed from their normal color to red, and there was a ring around his pupil with one tomo on it. He activated his charring gun. Danzo looked at him as if his presence was discomforting. As I said, for peace, for my ideal village, Danzo arrogantly stated, your village, huh? Someone said. All of a sudden, lightning filled the area as the spot where Danzo was exploded. The blast threw almost everyone back in the house. In the crater stood Kakashi in full A and BU gear, his Sharingan open. Sorry we're late, brat. You interrupted my research again, but considering what's happening, I'll let it slide. Everyone turned to see Jiraiya behind them. Seeing that his odds were becoming more and more slim, Danzo prepared to make his exit when several ninja hounds came out of the ground and restrained him, chewing on every limb available while sending foreign chakra into his body, further paralyzing him. And just where do you think you're going? Kakashi asked rhetorically. Before anyone could say or do anything, Itachi remembered what Shur said about Danzo taking his eye and moved in at Mach 1. The next thing Danzo knew, the eye he kept bandaged was ripped out. He grunted in pain as the blood flowed from his empty socket. Naruto's face was green as he groaned, "Oh, that's gross." "Why, you do that?" Itachi made sure it was what he thought it was. And after confirming it, he answered, "Danzo stole Shirui's Sharingan. I just took it back." Then he summoned his crow to hold onto for safekeeping. Danzo stood defiantly and said, "No matter. I have more tools at my disposal." As soon as he said that, 3 rude agents appeared at his side, released him from the hounds and attacked the group. Before Naruto and Sasuke could retaliate, Jiraiya knocked the 2 unconscious, leaving the older, more experienced shinobi to fight. Naru groaned as she began to awake. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she saw that she was at a hospital. And in her normal form, Nara started to panic. But then she heard someone say, "Hey, easy there, kid. No need for another panic attack." All right, she turned to see Jiraiya sitting next to her bed. Pervy sage. Then she remembered everything that happened and her panic doubled. Wait, where's Makoto Basin and Kakashi and II and Sasuke-kwan? And did you seriously knock me out? Dadabo Jiraiya was already feeling a migraine coming back. Yeah, she was fine. They're all resting. They've been through a lot, so they earned it. He said, "So, all of that really happened? It wasn't a dream?" Naru asked. "I wish it was, but it wasn't. As of right now, the population of the Akia clan has gone from over 400 to 3, all in one night." Naru looked downcast as all of this sank in. Her best friend just lost almost everything because of some power-hungry old man. She almost lost her only living link to her mother. Naru was surprised she hasn't cried yet. But before that, she had to know something. What happened after you knocked me out? I mean, Nu asked hesitantly. Jiraiya scratched the back of his head and answered, "Well, we fought off his rude agents and then Sensei showed up seeing the commotion from his office. Long story short, we kicked Root's ass, but Danzo got away. Sensei already has him marked as a rogue ninja wanted dead or alive. Personally, he's too dangerous to be left alive at this point. We're still investigating his stuff." Nu was relieved nobody else got hurt, but she was beyond angry at Danzo. From what she heard, that man was part of the reason why she was never raised properly. All she could do is nod dumbly and ask, "Is Sasuke-kwan okay? Kid's all right physically, mentally, he's a mess. He's been waiting for you to wake up. Don't worry, he hasn't been in here, so he hasn't seen the real you just yet." Jiraiya said, seeing Naru's brief panic. "Where is he? Come on, I'll show you. But first, put your hinge back on." All right. Naru activated her Naruto disguise as he followed Jiraiya to Sasuke's room. When they opened the door, what Nu saw broke her heart. Sasuke looked like hell, his eyes red from tears, though he'd never admit it, and not a speck of light in them. He was pale, unmoving, like he was in a trance. "Sasuke," Nar called out. Sasuke turned slowly and Naruto could have sworn that a little bit of life came back into his eyes. Nar, Sasuke breathed. Nar came next to him and gave Sasuke a hug. I'm sorry about what happened. You all right? Nar said, trying not to let his girl's concern completely out. Sasuke let go of the hug and hung his head as he growled. Not really. I lost everyone. My family, my clan, gone. All because of that bastard. Hey, you didn't lose everyone. Sasuke looked up at his best friend as he continued. Your mom's still alive and so is Itachi, so you didn't lose all of your family. Nar put his hands on Sasuke's shoulders so their eyes would meet. Plus, you know I'm here for you. We're best friends after all. What kind of friend would I be if I didn't help you through this, Dabo? Sasuke's eyes widened as he saw truth in Naruto's words. He was right. His mom and brother were still alive and Naruto was willing to be there for him to help him grieve. But then a dark thought popped into his head. And he shared, but what if Danzo comes back? What if he comes after all of you again? I almost lost my family once. I don't dash. If he comes back, we'll be ready for him. Dadabo Naruto interrupted. How could you be so sure? Because you're not the only one that wants to get Danzo. So does everyone in the village. They all know now the pain he's caused. So he'll have nowhere to run. Sasuke, you got the whole village to help you take Danzo down. You're not alone. We're stronger together. Remember, like Sensei said, Nar said sounding far smarter and older than the 7-year-old he was. Sasuke took in everything Naruto said and determined that what was said was undeniably right. That and he knew he couldn't shut Nar out. It was impossible. When Sasuke didn't reply, Naruto just said, well, if you need me, I'll just be down the hall. As he started to get up, wanting to give Sasuke some space, Naruto felt a tug. He saw Sasuke grab his sleeve as he begged, please don't go. Inwardly, Naruto blushed, knowing that Sasuke wanted her around. On the outside, Naruto just gave one of his true warm smiles as he lay down next to Sasuke and draped an arm over his shoulder. I'm not going anywhere, Dabo. Chapter 2, Truths and Tests. Ever since the Iha massacre, Naruto and Sasuke have been closer than before. Everyone noticed this, and some weren't sure what to make of it. Some were confused as to why the two were within 2 feet of each other and not trying to kill each other. Some were happy that the stoic Iha finally decided to not cut himself off from everyone. Sasuke's fangirls were pissed that their precious Sasuke-kwan was spending more time with Nar than them. Naruto never really paid much attention to them. She never paid attention to anyone's opinions. After that night, Sasuke changed and Naruto noticed it. He wasn't as happy as he used to be. He definitely brooded more often, and he trained harder than ever. It took Naruto, Itachi, and Mikoto combined to convince Sasuke to calm down. They knew he was grieving, and this was his way of dealing with it. However, Sasuke was killing himself at this point, so he had to stop. Nar saw to that. As time passed, Sasuke didn't brood so much, and he definitely took care of himself better. Everyone told him that he would be strong one day, but he had to be patient. Strength doesn't just come naturally. You had to earn it through training. Naruto drove that point home with his improvements, and Sasuke was definitely convinced after that. Over the years, the two improved, their friendship growing stronger alongside their abilities. The whole time, Nu hid her true self from him. She couldn't tell him, not yet. Not until they graduated. 6 years later, Nu's alarm went off, which she thoroughly smashed. She hated mornings. She was definitely not a morning person. But then she remembered that her final exam was tomorrow. Knowing this, she knew she had to study hard and practice hard, which is good and all, but there were 2 problems. 1, she was horrible with remembering anything for written tests, which is why she excelled with multiple choice tests. She aced those through word association. Anything else, not so much. Though any physical test she has, she winds up coming either slightly behind or on par with Sasuke or her other friend, Hinata Hyuga. See, Hinata is the only one outside of Nu's little family that knows about her true gender. Flashback. 1 year ago, Nu was training again, and since it was empty, she dropped her hench. She trained for a few hours not knowing that Hinata was watching. Hinata was confused as to why Naruto was a girl, so she used her Bakugan to see if it was just a henge and that Nar was just multitasking. However, it showed her that it wasn't. She gasped, and since Nu had heightened senses thanks to Q, she heard it. Nu turned and saw the girl hiding in the bushes. Hadachan. Naruto stuttered. Her words failing her. This isn't what it looks like really. I was just multitasking. That's all. Hinata came out from behind the bushes, walked up to Naru, and shook her head. And Naruto, I used my Bakugan. This is real. Hinata stuttered, the disbelief in her voice clear. Nu was panicking at this point. She was caught. She got careless. And she didn't know how to explain this to her. She knew Hinata had a crush on her male disguise, but now she ruined that image. And Naruto, why did you disguise yourself as a b-boy? Hinata asked shyly, wondering why Nu hid her true self. In front of Hinata was a scared young 12-year-old girl that wore a baggy orange jumpsuit and had slightly spiky golden blonde hair that went past her shoulders and had red highlights throughout. Her skin was tanned, her whisker marks still on her cheeks, and her eyes were still blue. You could tell she was a tomboy, and she certainly seemed like a very nice girl. But the question still remained, why did Nero hide her true identity? Nu wasn't sure if she should tell Hinata the truth. But then again, Hinata was a very sweet and understanding girl, unlike most of her clan. So she steeled herself the best she could and decided to tell her. Hinatakan, when I was younger I was always attacked. It got to the point where not only was I almost killed but they almost Naru choked, tears flowing as the memories came back. They haunted her even in her sleep. They tried to she couldn't say it. Hinata saw the girl in pain and she gave her a warm hug. I understand why you don't have to say it. I know. Hinata comforted. After that day, Gigi told me to use the Henjutsu to disguise myself as a guy. That way, it won't happen again. I've been hiding myself ever since. But even disguised, they they still try to kill me. Nu cried harder, clinging to Hinata like a lifeline. Hinata couldn't believe what she was hearing. The kind-hearted boy she started falling in love with was really a sweet girl who was suffering. Nu was kind. Hinata could tell that much, but she was scared out of her mind. So, feeling a little more confident, Hinata looked Naru in the eye and asked her, does anyone know about the real you? Nu's eyes widened a little at the fact that Hinata didn't stutter this time. Only Kakashi and 2 Makoto Basin Hokage Pervy Sage the Ikarakuze and now Yu. Hinata looked at her and asked, so Sasuke-san doesn't know? Nu just started panicking immediately at the thought of Sasuke knowing, and no he doesn't, he can't find out. If he does he'll hate me for sure, he'll just think I was using him or something. Hinata saw Nu's panic rising so she started blushing from embarrassment and waving her hands saying I was only asking because you two are clothes. So after the two calmed down, Hinata asked, do you think Sasuke-san will hate you? Nu just looked down in shame and said, because everyone hates me. I've been picked on all my life whether I was a boy or a girl. I remember Sakura told me when I was 8 that nobody would want to be friends with someone like me because I'm a freak. Then Nu started crying again. Why you probably hate me too. Don't you? This made Hinata's eyes widened in shock. Why would you think I'd hate you? Hinata asked. Sniff B. Because I lied to you. I know that you had this big crush on Naruto and I basically just told you. He doesn't exist. Nu cried while Hinata was a little hurt. Knowing her crush was just a facade. She certainly didn't hate Nu for tricking her. When you looked at her side of things, you really couldn't blame Nu for doing what she did. She had to tell her that. Actually, I understand why you did that. Nu stared at her with wide eyes. Why you did it to protect yourself and you were as scared. Nobody can blame you for that. Hinata consoled. But I still lied to you. It's okay. I don't hate you. To say Nu was shocked. That's an understatement. Hinata just found out one of her darkest secrets, and she didn't hate her for it. It was too good to be true. Why you don't hate me? Nu asked, hoping she wasn't just hearing things. Hinata just shook her head and gave Nu a warm smile. Nu's tears of sadness turned to tears of joy as she started hugging Hinata fiercely. Hinata-chan, thank you. Thank you, Nu cried. Hinata was surprised by the sudden contact, but returned the hug anyway, knowing Naru needed it right now. Nu pulled away and wiped her tears. I didn't think you'd forgive me, but I'm still sorry for lying to you, Hinaten. Nu apologized, still feeling guilty. It's okay, Naruto. Hinata said. Nu smiled and said, actually, when I'm like this, I prefer to go by Naru. Oh, I'm sorry, Naraitam. I mean, Narachan. Hinata corrected herself. It's okay. You could still call me that when I'm in disguise. Naru reassured. They talked for a while before Hinata had to head back home. Before she left, Hinata promised she wouldn't tell anybody about Nu's true self, and Nu was beyond happy about it. Ever since that day, Hinata and Nu were close friends. When they were at the academy, Hinata would be with Naruto and Sasuke, and the three bonded. Since Hinata was the only student at the academy that knew the real Naruto, so they did a lot of stuff together when they were alone. They ate, talked, joked around sometimes, and even trained together. Nu has been trying to help Hinata break out of her shyness. And so far, it's been working little by little. Though, there was one thing Hinata couldn't fully condone, no matter how funny they were. Nerves pranking habits. Oh, yeah, that was her second problem. Nu tended to pull pranks either before or after she studied, which sort of caused her to remember less of what she studied the day before. She claims it's part of her training, and it kind of is, especially with her choice of wardrobe. Even a year later, Nu still wears the same Kill Me orange jumpsuit. The only reason she liked it was because it was orange, her favorite color, and the Uzumaki crest was on the back. Though she did admit to herself that this much orange was a little much. Nu wore this because it was all she could afford, and when not wearing her henge, it hid her figure, which was already developing that, and she considered them her training clothes. This confused Hinata when she was first explaining, but then she went and said that she wanted to see if she could still be hidden while wearing something as bright as that. Sure enough, it worked. In fact, she was going to prove it before heading to the academy. So, Nu made herself breakfast with the groceries Makoto brought 3 days ago, ate quickly, put on her jumpsuit and goggles, and activated her henge before leaving. Naruto looked at his masterpiece. He basically did graffiti on the Hokage monument so that everyone could see. Naruto basically wrote names on most of the faces, but he took pleasure in writing Old Geyser on Lord Third's face. Though he just drew something on Lord Fourth's face, making him look like he was wearing makeup. Na figured that if her dad was still alive, she would have drawn this on his face while he was asleep, laughing about it with her mom. Just then, Naruto saw that several Chunin were headed his way. He just laughed and said, "Try and catch me, losers." They don't know how he did it. But Naruto always managed to escape them, even with the jumpsuit on. You'd think they'd be able to spot it from miles away. But not when it's Nar involved. Nar landed in front of the academy with 2 minutes to go before class started. He ran down the hall until he found his class. Few made it, Nar said as he entered. "Nar, you're actually on time. What, you didn't do that big prank you were bragging about last week?" Ka joked. Amu, who was on top of Ka's head, just barked in acknowledgement. "Nah, I did it before I got here. Check it out." Then most of the students looked out the window and sure enough, they saw what Nar did and laughed a little. Narbaka. Just then, Naruto was hit in the head so hard it went through the floor. "How could you do something so disgraceful? Those are the Hokage faces for crying out loud. Do you even know who they are?" Ubaka. Sakura screeched. Everyone winced. Yeah, Sakura was extremely loud, more so than Nar, and that's saying something. Then again, Sakura could easily shatter glass with her screeching. So, everyone was just waiting for it to happen. Nar pulled his head out of the floor, irritated, and said, "What? I know who they are, and it's just a harmless prank. But you even defiled the fourth Hokage's face." Sakura relented. Nar simply mumbled, "It's just face paint, Dadabo. It's not that big of a deal. Actually, I was going to ask, how come you just did that to Lord Fourth's face instead of the insults?" Ka asked, still laughing at Naruto's work. Naruto just stared at the floor and said, "Well, I just couldn't insult him, so I went with that instead. It's something I would have drawn on my dad's face with my mom's help." If they were still alive, everyone just stared at Nar. They were definitely not used to seeing this side of him. He just stood there, his head hung, and you could literally see the pain in his face. Yeah, well, too bad they wanted to die rather than have someone like you as their child. Sakura insulted in a nonchalant tone. This definitely struck home as Nar had to use all his energy to not strangle Sakura right now. And the rest of the class felt the same, but on a lower level. They were murdered by the QB, Nar hissed through gritted teeth, his fists clenched and his whole body shaking from rage. He knew Naru didn't fully blame him for her parents' deaths, but he still felt guilty for it. This information was news to everyone, so they just gasped. Most of the students were told by their parents that Nar was bad news. A demon taking a human appearance. To hear that, Nar has probably suffered worse than any of their families have. They were speechless. Sakura was pissed. Really pissed. Nar never called her a __. Hell, the blonde never did anything in retaliation to her abuse. So, this really made her mad. Though, in the back of Sakura's mind, she felt slightly bad for Naruto. She had no idea the QB killed his parents and wasn't sure how to take it. Then, her anger took over again as she decided she could care less, instead focusing on what her parents taught her. "What the hell did you just call me, Yubaka?" Sakura screamed, the rational part of her brain fading slowly. She winded up another punch, but Nar sidestepped, dodging it. He simply turned to her and repeated, "I said, the QB killed my parents. You dumb __." Veins appeared on Sakura's head. As her anger swelled, she would have punched Naruto through the wall, but Sasuke caught her fist before it could connect. "Sakura, that's enough. Quit acting like a spoiled brat," Sasuke said, clearly annoyed. Sakura saw her crush and immediately tried to justify herself. But Sasuke-kwan Narutobaka's a disgrace. He vandalized the Hokage monument and he called me a dumb __. He's begging for punishment. Sakura wed, sounding very immature. She glared at Nar and sneered. "I don't even know why a freak like you was even allowed here. You'll never be a ninja. So why don't you just do everyone a favor and die already? Nobody would miss you." Boy, was she lucky wasn't there yet. Otherwise, she would be in more trouble than she was already in. Everyone was just staring at her, really tempted to strangle her. Hinata had walked in while Sakura was ranting. And when she heard the pink-haired banshee's cruel words, she and Sasuke let out large amounts of ki, the kind that says, "I'll kill you and not bat an eye." Unfortunately, Sakura was so ignorant of her surroundings that she didn't notice the killer intent. "Haruno-san, Naruto-kwan has done nothing to warrant your hatred. So why would you treat him so horribly?" Hinata asked, her anger helping her not stutter. Sakura turned around and bluntly told the Hyuga why. "Because he's a demon. That's why. My parents said so themselves, and demons have no right to live." Sasuke gripped Sakura's wrist to the point where it hurt as he hissed. "He is not a demon. I've seen demons and I know for a fact he isn't one of them. So sit down, shut up, and leave us alone." When he finished that sentence, he flung Sakura over the table. Coincidentally, having her land in her seat, Sakura got up, upset that her crush just defended the bane of her existence. Instead of retaliating, she just huffed and began staring at the Uchiha with hearts in her eyes. Or as Sasuke and Naru would call it, raping the poor boy. "That banshee's a Yandra in the making, Kit," QB commented, shivering in disgust. Naru agreed. One of these days somebody was going to get hurt because of Sakura's obsession. Nar took his seat in between Sasuke and Hinata. They both looked at him with worried expressions. "You going to be okay, dope?" Sasuke asked. "And Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked, hoping the blonde was okay. They both knew most of, if not all of Naruto's situation, so they knew that Sakura's words affected him. He just gave a small smile and replied, "I'm fine, guys. Really, I'm not going to let her get to me. Thanks, though, for helping me." Hinata smiled and held Naruto's hand while Sasuke nodded and grunted. When everyone settled down, Ra walked into the classroom and was certainly surprised to see Nar there already. "Nar, in here? I thought you were skipping class." Uraraka joked. "What, skip your class? Why would I do that?" Nar asked, knowing where this was headed already. Uraraka pointed towards the Hokage monument and said, "I know that was you. Only you'd do that." Naruto simply laughed sheepishly at this, not denying it for a minute. "Well, I wanted to get some last-minute training before I came in." Ira-sensei, Nar explained. "How the hell is pulling pranks training? What good would that do?" Sakura asked, more than a little irritated by Naruto's antics. At this point, she was just begging for more reasons to hate the blonde. "Well, the pranks are for fun. Is getting away from the Chunin trying to catch me? That's training. I mean, have you guys noticed what I wear?" Naruto said, gesturing to his jumpsuit. Everyone actually hated that jumpsuit since looking at it was painful for their eyes sometimes. "You mean that fashion disaster? Why do you even wear that? Ninjas don't wear orange," Ino said. "Yeah, she's the resident fashion expert and she will not hesitate to judge what you wear. Believe me, I know. I only wear this because it's all I can afford. Anyway, I also wear this to test how long I can stay hidden while wearing this. I managed to hide from Chunin while wearing this," Naruto admitted. Well, everyone was certainly surprised by this, but at the same time, they weren't. While Naruto was the dead last, he was very good at taijutsu and creativity in battle. That and Nar had a reputation for being unpredictable. They were surprised he wasn't higher in class standing, considering Naruto's constantly proven that he wasn't an idiot, just cheerful and optimistic. So, some just assumed he was like Shikamaru, lazy with work. At least most of them thought this. The rest, like Sakura, thought he was just a loser that had no chance in life, but they had a bias. If that's the case, then why is it I'm the only one who's managed to catch you? Ra taunted in a playful manner. Some kids snickered, but Naruto just laughed and said, "That's because you know me so well, Datao." Yeah, you couldn't keep him down forever. The class went on like normal, which was basically review for their finals. Now it was lunch break and everyone was relaxing in the classroom. Nar, Ira called out. "Yeah, what's up, sensei?" he asked. Ira sighed and asked, "Why did you do that to the Hokage faces? You know who they are, right?" "Yeah, I know. They are the past leaders of the village, one of the strongest in the world. The fourth Hokage was the best one yet. I just did that to mess around and train. Nobody ever notices me now until I'm already done." Dadabo Naruto replied, realized that statement had a double meaning and felt a little saddened. "I'm surprised you just drew face paint on Lord Fourth's face. Would have thought you'd make up some creative insult like the rest." "Well, I couldn't do that to him. You wouldn't understand. It's complicated." Simply nodded and then said, "Well, you still need to clean that up after class. And before you complain, I'll treat you to ramen afterwards." Naruto's face lit up as he mocked, saluted, and said, "You got it, Rasa-sensei. I'll leave that monument sparkling in 2 minutes. Just watch Dabo. If you wanted Naru to do anything, henge or not, just bribe her with ramen." The girl absolutely loved it, especially since it was one of the few things she could afford on her own. Kakashi and Makoto keep telling her to mix it up and eat vegetables, the healthy stuff. So, she found a loophole. Nu simply decided to add more healthy foods in her ramen. The family that owns a churaku made sure to do this, too. That way the ramen is healthy but still as delicious as before. It winded up becoming a big hit and they got a lot more customers after that. HN Ramen Addict, Sasuke said, "Hey, ramen is awesome. You wouldn't be saying that if you at least tried it." Dadabo Naruto started. "Yeah, she also didn't like it when you insult her favorite food. No matter who it was, that stuff is garbage in a bowl. Why would anyone eat that fattening crap?" Sakura said with disgust. "1. It's delicious. I would even go as far as to say it's the food of the gods. 2. If you were serious about your shinobi career, you could burn off the calories from the ramen by training. That way, you stay thin. 3. The ramen I eat is actually healthy. Just ask I am Nisan and she'll tell you all about it. Even Choji knows about it." Nar went into his rare instructor mode. He really wanted to make Sakura look bad. Okay, more bad than she already looked because people were still glaring at her for the little show from earlier. TCH, and people really thought I liked her. No way in hell. Dadabo Naru thought what Nar said had some girls actually interested and curious since he was the local ramen fanatic expert next to Choji. "Choji, is this true?" Ino asked, knowing he was an expert on all things food. It was the Akamichi clan's specialty after all. They even have their own restaurant. Everyone stared at Choji as he ate his chips, waiting for an answer. Then he answered, "Yeah, Yaku started doing that months ago. It's mostly girls that eat it, though, but guys eat it, too, if they want an excuse to eat healthy. It costs as much as a normal bowl of ramen, so it's not even expensive." Everyone's jaws dropped. A version of what girls consider junk food, but was healthy. At first, Naru was worried she let something slip, but she was thankful Choji mentioned that guys eat it, too. Pretty much everyone's thoughts were, "I got to try it." Well, everyone except Sakura, who was just fuming from her pride. She just huffed and walked away far enough for her to yugle Sasuke from a distance. Naruto just glared at Sasuke and taunted. Well, Sasuke simply shrugged and said, "I didn't say I had anything against it. All I said was that you're an addict." "Good." Nar grinned like a madman. Feeling victorious, Hinata just giggled at Naruto's antics. After lunch, the class went on to its last review before the final exam tomorrow. They finished with practicing the Henge no Jutsu. When it was Naru's turn, she decided to mess with everyone's head and turn into a older, more developed version of herself. She called it her sexy jutsu, though she made it for a few reasons. The main reason was that the jutsu itself was a pervert detector. If a guy had a nosebleed just by seeing the form, yeah, the dude's a perv. The other reason was that Nu wanted a reason to show people her true self. Okay, a slightly exaggerated older version of herself, but you get the idea. Though, there's one last reason that Nu wasn't proud of. Apparently, QB admitted to planting the idea for the jutsu in her head, considering he was a super pervert like Jiraiya. However, she was careful with how she used it. At first, she accidentally activated it, and the older Naru had no clothes on, just a smoke cloud for modesty. It was a good thing nobody was around and Nu was in the bathroom. Otherwise, that'd be the most embarrassing moment of her life, ever, of all time. But this time, she was ready. When the smoke cleared, in front of the classroom stood an older version of Naru, but she was wearing a black kimono with orange stripes. The kimono did nothing to hide Nu's bust. We're talking double D's here, guys. Don't worry, it's just for the jutsu. It's not her natural size. Don't freak out about realism. Aside from that, she was gorgeous. Her hair mostly straight with some spikes still there and it reached her hips. You'd think she was Kusha if it weren't for Naru's hair being mostly blonde. Not bad kit, not bad at all, nice figure, face is still cute, nice job with the hair. Very nice rack, I give they 2 or 8/10. Q.B. commented in her head. Only 8. Why? Naru asked, shocked and offended. That damned kimono, that's why. You just want to see me naked, don't you? You pervy fox. Yep, Huey said shamelessly while this was going on in her head. Ra's eyes bugged out and he had a nosebleed that sent him into his desk. Nu blinked and said, geez, sensei, I didn't think you were a perv, too. WWW. What the hell is that? Sakura screamed, pointing at Nu. Well, guys, she found her reason. Well, this is my sexy jutsu, Sakura. Naru plainly answered. This was one of the few times she could be herself, and she was not going to pass this up. You pervert, why would you make a stupid jutsu like that? Everyone winced at the volume of Sakura's voice. Even with their emergency earplugs, some sounds still somehow managed to get through. Everyone looked towards the windows. Anon. Nope. Windows still intact. Naru's face reamed as she shouted back. I am not a pervert. Dadabo. I made this jutsu as a pervert detector. There's a difference. Why do you think I'm wearing a kimono right now for modesty? Sasuke even backed her up and said, it's true. The dude explained it to me when he first used it. It could also be used for more than just detecting perverts, apparently. Sasuke conveniently left out that Nu almost got him with the jutsu. Almost because Sasuke just had to be his stoic self, channeling his clan's pride the whole time. Sakura appalled as she realized she was in the wrong. Everyone knew that Sasuke was the only person capable of showing Sakura when she was actually wrong since she was that obsessed. Well, there goes her reason. Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry, she apologized, feeling the shame. While Naru didn't really like Sakura, she knew. The pink-haired girl was only the way she is because of her parents. Unlike them, Sakura seemed capable of actually understanding when she's in the wrong. That is, if she wasn't blinded by her prejudice, anger, or obsession with Sasuke. Naru was pretty sure Sakura just apologized because Sasuke said something. But she went with it. Sigh, it's okay. You're not the first one to overreact like that. Kakashi and I did the same thing when he found out. Makoto Basin was worse though, Naru said, remembering those experiences. So, have you found any pervs with that thing? Ino asked, wanting to know if it was even effective. All the girls leaned forward, wanting to know who to be weary around. Yep, sensei is one. I'm pretty sure it worked on Kakashi and I since he blushed, but all he did was bonk me on the head. There's also Hokage and pervy sage Nu answered, suddenly noticing that most students had nosebleeds. The only people that didn't were all the girls, Shikamaru, Shino, and Choji. Ka and Sasuke had to try really hard to not think that way. Of course, Ka failed miserably. Aimu just shook his head as he wed, disappointed in his master right now. As for Sasuke, well, he managed to hold it in while looking like his stoic self. And apparently almost everyone in this room, Dadabo, she finished groaning in disappointment. Can you blame them? You're basically giving everyone a preview of what to expect from an older you. QB commented, but I'm wearing clothes this time. It doesn't matter. Have you seen your own rack? It's ___ huge. Double D's kit. Double D's. It won't matter if you're wearing any clothes as long as they see the size of those jugs. Naru groaned mentally and said, maybe I went a little overboard with the look. Dadabo. You think? Huey replied sarcastically. Naru looked over at Sasuke and smiled. Well, at least Sasuke-kwan isn't a perv like everyone else. Nu said in her head. Nah, he's just holding it all in. Wait until he sees the real you, Kit. He'll be on you like an animal during mating season. Hell, you two would probably be __ like rabbits in heat in no time. Haha. Laughter. QB started laughing at Nu, knowing how she'd react. Nu blushed heavily at the thought, went through the bars, and started banging on QB's arm in a comical way, all while yelling, shut the hell up. You perverted fox. Sasuke __ is not like that. This just made QB laugh even harder. Once class ended, Nu put her normal hinge back on and started working on cleaning the graffiti like he told Naruto was done in 2 minutes. However, he left some flowers on top of Lord Fourth's head as a replacement for the graffiti. Afterwards, they ate, paid, and reprimanded Naruto for the sexy jutsu trick, and they went home. The next day, Nu was a little nervous. It was the day of the final exams. She knew she would pass this time since several problems have been fixed this time. Unlike her earlier years, Jiraiya and Kakashi have been training her. Makoto helped as well by teaching her some techniques she could use in battle. Jiraiya learned that when it comes to Jinjutsu, it was impossible for Naruto to learn any of it. This was because of her enormous chakra reserves, which would explain why she was terrible with the standard clone jutsu. Therefore, he taught her the shadow clone jutsu instead, and she did it flawlessly. In fact, the first time she did it, she made about 70 clones. So, in case she had to do the clone jutsu for the exam, she's going to nail it. Detecting genjutsu wouldn't be a problem considering she was now immune thanks to her Toucan. Her Taijutsu was at high Genin L low Tunin level at the moment only because everyone wanted to teach her the basics first. They didn't want to move too fast with her training. Kakashi helped Nu with her chakra control a little bit so she wouldn't waste a lot of it in any of her jutsus. Nu already knew how to suppress her chakra to hide her presence from hiding after her pranks. Itachi helped with her accuracy with shurikens and kanis. Though Nu had to have her henge active as Itachi didn't know about her all around, she was fine. However, she was still nervous mainly because she knew that someone was bound to rig her exams in some way. The girl grabbed a quick breakfast, some cereal with milk. Luckily, they weren't expired yet thanks to Makoto buying them. Once she finished, Naru took a quick shower, mulling over how the day was going to go. As she was changing into her jumpsuit, Nero heard someone knock on her door, and it made her jump. Nar, it's me. It was Sasuke. Nu quickly put on the henge and answered the door. Sasuke, hey, what are you doing here? Nar asked, making sure you're not late again. Dope that, and Mom said you'd be a mess. So, oh, thanks team. Well, let's get going, Naruto said, closing the door behind him. You ready for the exams? Yeah, I'm going to ace that test this time, Dadabo. Sasuke simply shook his head at his friend's attitude. He knew Nar has been training hard these past few years. He's seen it himself. Sasuke was also aware at this point that Nar was one of, if not his only equal at the academy. Normally, he would be obsessed with being the better of the two, but for some reason didn't even mind. In fact, having Nar as a rival was nice somehow. Sasuke swore that there was something about Nar that was different from everyone else. It was like he was hiding something. Sasuke tried approaching Nar about it, but he said it was nothing. He knew he was lying, so that just made him more convinced to find out what his best friend was hiding. From what Sasuke gathered, Naruto definitely didn't act like a normal kid, obviously, and he had this weird aura around him, as in the type of aura Sasuke would feel on a girl. Everyone else wasn't aware, but since Sasuke knew Naruto for years, he knew from comparison. After all, he was hounded by girls every day, so he knew what a girl's aura and presence felt like. With Nar, his aura was a mix between boy and girl, but it was mostly girl. Though the question was now engraved in his head, is Nar a girl? Sasuke looked at Nar trying to see anything remotely feminine. He couldn't find anything, which meant that it had to be a henge. But he wasn't going to test that in the street. He'd have to find some way of making the henge drop. But how? Sasuke, you all right, man? Nar asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Why? Sasuke recovered. Well, you just spaced out all of a sudden. Something on your mind. Crap, how did he know? Or how did she know? Wait, I don't even know if Naruto really is a girl. So, UGGH. Sasuke thought. Sorry, didn't realize it. Yeah, there's been something that's been bugging me. Oh, what is it? Maybe I can help. Nar offered. Sasuke shook his head. No, I'll just figure it out later. Okay, then, Naruto said. Kit, I think he's on to you. Q. B. said. What the hell are you on about now? Q. B. Naruto asked. Really not in the mood for him. That he's on to you. He suspects you're a girl. What? How? Are you just trying to mess with me? Nu exclaimed, her panic creeping in. Luckily, she could hide it on the outside. I'm serious, Kit, he suspects you. He already tried checking you out while we were walking. If he uses his sharing gun, he'll know for sure. Yeah, time to panic. Internally, of course, for the rest of the walk, Naru was screaming inside her head and ran around QB's cage in a comical way while Q was laughing at Nu's reaction. Naruto and Sasuke made it to the academy with 30 minutes to spare before the exam. When Hinata finally joined them, they used the time review and go over anything they forgot. As in Sasuke and Hinata drilled Naruto on questions for the written test. When entered the classroom, he said, "All right, everyone. As you know, today is your final exam. If you pass, you will be officially recognized as a proud shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. We'll start with the written test, followed by the Kunai and Shuriken test, then the Taijutsu test. After that will be the Genjutsu test and finally the Ninjutsu test where you must successfully perform the Henge substitution and clone jutsus." I saw some people panic a little under the pressure, so he said, "Don't worry, I will be overlooking all of your tests alongside Mizuki." This made Nar calm down a lot, but he didn't trust Mizuki. As a perk of being QB's Ginryuki, Kyuubi allowed Nu access to his ability to sense negativity, and she always sensed malice on Mizuki, even when she wasn't around. This was bad. While would be there, Nu was certain Mizuki would try and rig some part of her test. Mizuki started passing out the written exam, and when Naruto got his, he compared it to Sasuke's and Hinata's just to be safe. Luckily, it passed his inspection. This test was 45 minutes and Naruto noticed that all the questions were easy. Plus, the majority of the test was multiple choice. Yeah, Naruto definitely had this in the bag. Though still cautious, she secretly activated her toucan to check for any jutsu. Luckily, her hair's red streaks had grown over the years to the point that they don't change and expand anymore when Naruto activates her toucan. Nar scanned his paper and no genjutsus were on it. He was in the clear. Satisfied, Nar quickly turned his eyes back to normal and started filling out the test. Once everyone was done, they gave the papers to who graded them personally. Okay, everyone passed the first test. Well done, everyone cheered at the news. Nar smiled knowing he conquered his greatest enemy to date. Written tests. Posted the grades on the wall and everyone saw their exact grades. Sasuke and Hinata got perfect scores and Naruto was only 5 points behind them, leaving him at rank 3. Naruto decided to see where the others were placed and saw that Shikamaru was ranked 8, Choji was ranked 7, Ka was ranked 9, Shino was ranked 6, Ino was ranked 5, and Sakura was tied with Naruto. The pink-haired girl was definitely pissed about that, and she was supposed to be the smartest person there. Apparently not. They moved outside to where the training dummies were and announced, "Okay, we will now start the Kunai and Shuriken test. Everyone, wait until you are called." Most of the kids did a rather poor job, at least in Sasuke's eyes. For Naruto, almost everyone was just plain sad. Well, the only good ones were the ones from actual shinobi clans. Sakura missed most of them and the ones she did land didn't even hit the bullseye, so she failed that. When it was Sasuke's turn, obviously he got all the bullseyes. Hinata was close but didn't quite hit all the bullseyes. So, she was only a point or two behind Sasuke. When it was Naruto's turn, he just relied on the training attach he gave him. So, Naruto went with simple and not flashy at all. In fact, he went with the lazy style. That's right, he was going to pull a Shikamaru with a little Itachi added in the mix. Naruto lazily threw 5 shuriken at once and they all hit the bullseyes. When it came to the kunais, Nar didn't even take a second to aim and he just threw them one after another. Bullseyes. The training dummies were just pincushions at this point. Normally Naruto would miss, so everyone was shocked at this. Shikamaru just groaned and said, "Man, Did he really just copy me? What a drag. Yeah, Shikamaru literally did what Naruto just did only minutes ago, only slower, and he actually took the time to aim. I do not believe that was what happened. It would appear Nar was either hiding his true skills or perhaps he has been recently training his skills to perfection. It certainly would explain how he hit the targets with high precision and minimal effort. Shino said, either way, man, he's definitely has gotten better. Ka agreed. Wow, Naruto, you got a perfect score. Congrats. Uraka said almost speechless. Nar just grinned and said, thanks, Ira Sensei. Then he went over to where his friends were. Hinata congratulated him while Sasuke called him a show-off. Then came the Taijutsu test. Everyone gathered around the sparring area as Mizuki explained the rules. All right, the rules are simple. Try and knock me out of bounds in less than 2 minutes. If you can't, don't worry. You have the other tests to fall back on. Mizuki informed everyone. From there, the sparring began. Most of the kids couldn't even last 2 minutes. They were that bad. Some managed to last, but not take Mizuki down. Shikamaru didn't even try since Taijutsu wasn't his forte. Choji beat Mizuki in 1 minute and 50 seconds using his expansion jutsu. Ino took 1 minute and 55 seconds, so she barely made it. Ino would have normally used her mind transfer jutsu to have Mizuki step out of bounds, but she didn't have time to activate it or even prepare it. Sakura couldn't beat Mizuki, and she was exhausted. Not bad, Sakura, though. You really need to work on your stamina and strength. Mizuki pointed out, pant pant asterisk. As Sensei Sakura got out in between breaths. Nobody else was exhausted as her, so that just showed how bad Sakura was. Why the hell is Sakura so exhausted? It was only 2 minutes. Ha wondered that would be because she doesn't train like at all. Nar answered, huh, everyone said startled. Yeah, she focused too much on looking good for team. That would seriously explain why I can see her ribs through her dress. Everyone couldn't believe that Sakura didn't even train. They were trying to become shinobi for crying out loud. You had to train or you'd be killed. You couldn't just study because book smarts only take you so far. Apparently, Sakura doesn't get that. Even Ino trained. She didn't waste all of her time on Sasuke. Ino and Hinata were definitely disappointed in her. Hell, as Sakura was now, she definitely gives Kunoichi a bad name. Shino went up next, but he couldn't get Mizuki out of bounds either since he wasn't allowed to use his insects. Taijutsu was currently his weakest point, so it was going to cause Shino problems from the beginning. Ka beat Mizuki in 50 seconds, which didn't surprise anyone considering his clan specialized in taijutsu as well as tracking. Hinata beat Mizuki in 48 seconds with her gentle fist technique. When it was Sasuke's turn, he beat Mizuki in only 30 seconds with his interceptor fist technique and his charring gun. He beat Itachi's record by 15 seconds. Finally, it was Naruto's turn. Finally, Naruto Uzumaki. Nar stood up and walked up to the ring. Nar got into his unique fighting stance and waited for Mizuki to give the signal. Begin. With that, Nar immediately launched a right hook which Mizuki blocked. Nar continued throwing punches, adding kicks in too. Mizuki started throwing out some attacks, but Nar reacted quickly by either redirecting them, blocking, or just dodging. Nar saw that Mizuki wasn't pulling any of his punches, which he expected, so he decided to end it quickly. Naruto threw a flying roundhouse kick, which hit Mizuki's head hard. He immediately followed it with a leg sweep, knocking Mizuki off his feet. In that brief second, Mizuki was in the air. Naruto performed what he called the donkey kick. He launched off his hands and rammed both his feet into Mizuki's exposed stomach, sending him 4 feet away out of the ring. 35 seconds. Hinata and Sasuke weren't surprised considering they've seen him fight. Everyone else was, though. After a few congratulations, everyone took a small break before the Jingetsu test. Of course, Naruto and Hinata had to make sure Sasuke's fangirls didn't try anything on him since now they were just begging to get close to him. When the Genjutsu test began, the students just had to enter the classroom and dispel the Jingetsu cast on them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to get through the door that led to the final test. Eventually, the numbers started dwindling, only a few people coming back, meaning they failed the exams. That meant that the ones that didn't return passed. Wait, even Sakura passed. Sakura, how the hell did that happen? Nu tried wrapping her head around that idea, and it was very hard to picture, so she went down the list. Sakura obviously passed the written exam, failed the kunai and shuriken tests, and failed the taijutsu test. That had to have meant she passed the last 2 tests. This made sense to Nu since most of the kunoichi in her class were better with ninjutsu than anything else. Besides herself, only Hinata was good all around. Ino was a weird mix between fangirl and proper kunoichi. The rest only cared for their looks. God knows why, since they were only 13, or they obsessed over boys, in their case, Sasuke. It was finally his turn and Naruto walked into the room. He noticed the Jing Jutsu easily and sent a chakra pulse outward to dispel it. But something still felt off. Kit, this Jing Jutsu is double layered. Normal Janine can't detect them, but I can. Someone's trying to make you fail. Send out another pulse. QB advised. Nodding, Nar sent out another pulse. This time dispelling the Jingetsu completely. Finally seeing the correct door, Nar walked through. Congrats, Naruto. You passed the Genjutsu test even if you took a little longer. Uraka said, laughing a little. Nar said, thanks. Apparently, that one was double layered. That's why it took so long. Ra turned serious and asked, double layered? Are you sure? Nar nodded. Ra knew someone would rig Naruto's exams. And now it was obvious. Mizuki was the culprit, trying to act like he didn't know anything. Simply said, I'll have to look into that. Anyway, could you perform the following jutsus, Nar? He gestured towards the list behind him, which stated the jutsus needed to pass. Henge substitution and clone. Nar did the henge and substitution with ease. Sensei, is it possible to use another type of clone technique? This Hada puzzled, but nodded. Anyway, Nar grinned, did his crossfinger hand sign and said, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Then 2 puffs of smoke appeared and 2 copies of Naruto stood next to him. Solid copies, mind you, dropped his pen and asked, that's a B-rank jutsu. Nar, where did you learn that? Knowing nobody would exactly believe that Jiraiya taught him that jutsu. Nar lied, Kakashi and I showed me how to do it last year since I couldn't do the regular one. Now, that was more believable since all the ninja in the village knew Kakashi helped take care of him, even if it wasn't under the same roof. Plus, it helped that Kakashi is arguably the strongest jonin in the village. Well, Nar, you passed. And based on your scores from the other tests, you graduate. You're officially a Jonin, Uraka said, holding out one of the standard issue Jonin headbands. He couldn't be more proud of Naruto right now. Ra had seen him work his butt off from day one and the improvements were made clear today. Mizuki, on the other hand, was pissed. He thought his plan would work with the Jing Jutsu. And when that didn't work, he tried disrupting Naruto's chakra with a secret seal. In the room, he hadn't counted on Nar learning the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Nar took off his goggles and replaced it with his new headband. Thanks, Uraka-sensei. You're the best, Dabo, Naruto said as he went to join the other graduates. Sure enough, everyone was there. Hinata and Sasuke were the first to greet him. You passed. See, congratulations, Naruto-kun. Hinata cheered. Thanks, Hinata, Nar said as he hugged her. Hinata blushed heavily but hugged back. Yeah, congrats, Nar, Sasuke said, a friendly smirk on his face. Thanks, Sasuke. The 2 bumped fists. Everyone was a little surprised that the dead last of their class not only passed, but didn't even trade insults with Sasuke this time. Before questions could be asked, Ra came out and said, all right, to everyone here, congratulations on becoming Jonin. Now everyone has to come back to the academy in 2 weeks for team placement. Understand? Hi Ra-sensei. Everyone said then they were allowed to leave, suddenly having a 12 vacation before the fun stuff happened. However, Mizuki still had to enact his plan by tonight. Plan A didn't work, so he was going to have to go to Plan B. Hey Nar, Mizuki called out. Nar turned around and said, Mizuki-sensei. Hey, I just wanted to congratulate you. Also, I was hoping we could talk in private. Naruto looked at his 2 friends who gave him the silent. Okay. Nar followed Mizuki to the swing set in front of the academy away from the crowd. So, how does it feel to be a genin? Mizuki asked. Honestly, it's awesome. Now I can help protect the village, Dadabo. Nar said enthusiastic. Well, it's great you feel that way, but there is a way for you to protect it that's better. Mizuki said, tempting Nar while Naruto wasn't buying any of it. Feeling Mizuki's malice, he played along and asked, really? How? Too easy, Mizuki thought. Then Mizuki told him to take the scroll of seals and learn at least one technique, but to do it at the shed near the village gates. Does he really think I'm that dumb? Datao Nu asked nobody in particular. She dropped her henge and was in the room where the scroll was at. She was surprised by how weak the security was. Seriously, she practically vaulted right in. I don't know. It looks like you're doing what he says, Kit. QB commented. Not really. I still want to see the scroll, but I'm going to let Hokage know about this after I read this. Of course, Nu replied in a chipper tone. She found the scroll had a shadow clone stand guard and started reading. The first jutsu she saw just so happened to be the shadow clone jutsu. While reading it, Nu learned that if the clone is dispersed, she learns what the clone learned. This could also help speed up her jutsu training. Yeah, she was definitely going to abuse it. Now, the next one had her and Kyuubi with wide eyes. The second entry was about Nu Sukigen, but there were more details about it than she realized. Whoa, the Sukin's in here. Maybe I can learn more about it here, Datao, Nu exclaimed. You sure you want to do that, Kit? There's some stuff in there you're not ready for. At least not now anyway. QB warned. Oh, lighten up, you big fuzzball. I just want to know more about it. Gez, if you and the others say I'm not ready, then fine. I won't do what I can't just yet. Nu stated. QB was actually surprised Naru said something that actually sounded responsible, which normally isn't like her. Then again, when Nu said something, she stuck to it. So QB just accepted her words, feeling a little proud of her maturity. With that, she started reading and couldn't believe what she was reading. Some of what was written was new even to Q. Nu read about the Sukigen's unique abilities. The first one being the one that put it on the map, matter manipulation. Nara didn't understand it at first, but she read further and saw that with the Sukigen, she could manipulate her environment, similar to jutsus, but without hand signs. That would explain how she blew everyone away all those years ago. There was also another ability, one that didn't know about. That Sukigen has a type of sonar mode if you close your eyes or your vision was hampered in any way. Sonar. What? Like the bats? Nu asked extremely confused. Holy __, Kusha never learned this. So she never knew. Kit, this scroll is saying that you could see even when your vision is disrupted or clouded. And since it's like sonar, you could literally see everything around you. It's similar to the Bakugan's 360 vision. What? I got to try it. She activated her toucan and closed her eyes. Nothing happened, so she sent a little more chakra to her eyes and then things started to form in the darkness. Naru gasped at what she was seeing. She was looking at an outline of everything that's around her. Right now she was looking at the scroll outlined in white. The text was white too, but everything else was black. She could see behind her and through the door as well as down the hall. Hell, she was even able to see the small outline of Harusen working in his office. Wah! This is crazy, Nu said. Odd, no kidding, I had no idea this ability existed. You can basically fight even when blinded. This can be very helpful, Kit. Q.B. said, also amazed by this ability. Nu opened her eyes and her normal vision came back. Apparently, that mode was called second vision, which Naru thought sounded kind of cool. She saw that there was nothing else about the Sukigen in the scroll. When she hit the third entry, QB almost crashed into his cage. He was that shocked. Kit, that's the 8 trigram sealing style. He almost screamed. The 8 what now? Naru asked. The 8 trigram sealing style. It's what your father used to seal me and you. And it was made by the Uzumaki clan. Learn it. Yeah, Q. Bai was definitely screaming now. Nu's eyes widened in shock. If she learned the sealing style, she'd not only know something from her clan, but she'd also know everything about the seal on her. Hell, who knows what she could apply it to, not saying another word. She memorized that entry's contents. Q. B. Even helped by writing what Nero read in his cage for future reference. Once she finished, she learned that her clone popped itself. Harrison was coming in fast. Nu panicked as she looked for a hiding place. Then she remembered the henge jutsu and used it to turn into a rock in a corner. Harrison came in very quickly, even for his age. He immediately went to where the scroll was and was relieved it was still there. I know you're still here, Narachan. You're not fooling this old man, Husan said, throwing the scroll at Nu's rock form. She instantly turned back. Ow, that hurt. Datao. Naru yelped in pain, holding her head. Harrison's sweat dropped and deadpanned. That was the point. Turning serious, he asked, why were you reading the scroll? It's forbidden for a reason. Because I wanted to know why Mizuki team wanted it so badly. He asked me to get it and learn at least one thing. That way, I'd be able to protect the village better, Naru explained using air quotes on what Mizuki told her. This had Heron's attention. Mizuki, he asked you to steal the scroll. Well, those weren't his exact words, but yeah, basically after I read some of this, I was going to tell you, but you rushed over here. How do you even know I was in here? Harrison simply said, I have my ways. Nu gave a deadpan stare and said, you used that ball thing again, didn't you? GGQB told you about that, huh? Harrison asked, rubbing his temples. He was aware that Naru has been talking with Q. Bye, but he didn't realize the tailed beast was sharing that type of information. Naru nodded, and Harrison groaned. Yes, I did. I saw you reading the scroll and assumed the worst. Like what? That I'd unleash old Fuzz, but onto the village for making my life hell. Naru asked rhetorically. Harrison took it serious and palled. A kit, that's plenty of reason to do that. QB deadpanned. Well, do you want to leave? Nu asked. Wait, what? Nu sighed and repeated. I'm asking if you want to leave. I know the sealing style now, so I should be able to make a key to release the seal. Just say the word and you can leave my body and do whatever you want. Q. Bai thought Nu was just kidding, but saw she was dead serious. She was willing to set him free because she knew he wasn't the demon everyone made him out to be. If it were normal circumstances, QB would say yes. But this wasn't it, he cared too much already. As fun as that sounds, if you do that, you'll die. It's a known rule that if the tailed beast is removed from its Ginryuki, in this case it's you, by any means, you will die. Plus, you can't make a key since your jackass dad already made one. Nu was definitely shocked. She didn't know that would happen and she wasn't aware that Q. Bai actually cared about that fact. Wait, why are you telling me this? I thought you hated me. Never really said I did, Q said. Then he started scratching his head and admitted. Honestly, things are more entertaining with you around. Plus, your mother died because of me whether you like it or not. The least I could do is look after her brat. Naru was definitely surprised. Q. B. actually cared about her. She felt a few happy tears come to her eyes as she said, thanks, QB. I'll try and find a way to give you a little more freedom. I promise. Leaving the mindscape, Nu said, relax. That was a joke. Besides, this thing doesn't even say how to make the key. And if I do let QB out, I'd probably die. That's not the point. There's still the risk of him taking over. Harrison tried to make Naru see reason. Instead, Naru's eye twitched. The only time QB has ever taken over my body was when he wanted to experiment on me with his goddamn perverted jutsus. Databo. She snapped. The memories coming back, they were really embarrassing for her since QB was experimenting with different versions of the sexy jutsu. Still worth it, Kit. Still worth it, QB said, grinning like a madman, his nose leaking a little blood from the memories. Harrison's sweat dropped, finding this information really bizarre. Nar sighed in frustration as she said, look, that's not important. Mizuki team still wants me to deliver that scroll. What are we going to do? Harrison contemplated on this and came up with a solution. He grabbed a scroll that looked similar to the scroll of seals but had a trap inside which activates if anyone opens it. Take this to him. I'll be watching from my office and I'll have all Chunin alert on the situation. They will know you're innocent. He ordered. Nu nodded and took her leave. Well, Husin's plan went smoothly. Mizuki fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Once he grabbed the scroll, the trap activated, which was basically him getting chained up with the chains connecting to the trees around him, but he somehow managed to break free. Ra showed up to help and Mizuki tried to turn Nar against by telling him the reason everyone hated him. Didn't work since he already knew. Though Mizuki apparently knew about the whole gender thing somehow and disrupted Nu's henge in their fight. Didn't really stop her from beating the living crap out of him. By the time Nu was done, Mizuki had bruises all over his body. His skin was completely black and blue. No joke. Now all that was left was explaining this to Ra. Ra-sensei, I can explain. Really? Nu said trying to figure out what to say. It's okay. I knew all along. Uraka reassured. Wait, you knew how? Ra just gave her a look and Nu knew. Makoto Basin told you, didn't she? Her and Lord Hokage. Naru face-palmed herself. Seriously, everyone's finding out now. Databo, You didn't tell anyone, did you? No, no, I didn't. That's your secret to tell. Nu just looked at him like he was suspicious. Sigh asterisk. I swear, if Sasuke-kwan finds out about this, too, I don't know what I'll do, Dabo, and he's already suspicious. Nu groaned, dreading even the thought. He's going to find out eventually. You can't keep it from him forever. Naru, Uraka said. Nu knew he was right, but she was still afraid of how Sasuke would take it. Suddenly feeling tired, Nu said, I know. Why I'm going to let Gigi know what happened. Then I'm going to sleep. You can talk to him tomorrow. You need to rest. Especially after what happened today. Naru at this point couldn't even complain, so she let Ra take her home. Once there, Nu checked if any villagers left traps for her again. They didn't. She unlocked her door, went into her apartment, fell onto her bed, and instantly fell asleep. Chapter 3. Birth of Team 7. The events of the previous night were revealed to the entire Shinobi Council, and they were definitely pissed that Mizuki would betray them so easily. Harrison tried to figure out why Mizuki would do something like this, but he couldn't figure it out. So, he sent the traitor to Ibiki and Eniki for interrogation. All that was left was for Nu to report in. That was when Harrison heard knocking on his office door. Enter. Harrison answered the knocking and Naru walked into the office. Hey Gigi, Naru greeted. Narachan, how are you feeling? Harrison greeted. I'm doing fine. I managed to get an actual night's worth of sleep this time, so that's good. Harusan wondered what Naru meant by that. I see. Well, I must thank you for helping bring Mizuki in. Oh, it was nothing. Dadabo, Naru said, feeling a little bashful. Anyway, already filled me in on the events that transpired the previous night, so no report will be needed. Nu thanked Ra for that in her head. She hated reports of any kind. Harusan brought out some papers from a folder on his desk and said, Now, normally I wouldn't do this, but I would like your opinion on some of your classmates. This had Naru a little confused. Harrison wanted her opinion on some of her classmates. This had to be related to team selection somehow. Gigi, does this have anything to do with team selections? She asked nervously. Harrison nodded. Yes, I figured that after last night and everything you've had to endure these past few years, you deserve a break. Nu was touched that Harrison wanted to help her that much. So she happily replied, Oh, okay. Thanks, Gigi. Harusan smiled at the girl, looked to his papers, and asked, What are your thoughts on Sasuke Iha? Naru wasn't all that surprised. Harrison started with him first since all the girls except Hinata were fangirls. Well, Sasuke-kun is a really cool guy, and when you get to know him, he's really nice and thoughtful. He's definitely strong, though he does brood often. I tried breaking him out of that habit and it's mostly worked. He keeps to himself most of the time, though he lets me be near him since we're best friends. Naru answered. Harrison considered what he was told and asked, So the two of you can work with each other? Naru nodded happily and replied, Yep. Then Harrison asked, Is he aware of your true self? Nu's mood went down a little bit as she said, No, he doesn't know yet. Though Kyuubi said that Sasuke-kwan's already suspicious. I don't know how he'll take it, Dadabo. Harrison simply nodded. Then he went to the next paper and asked, What about Sakura Haruno? Naru immediately crossed her arms like an X and said, Nah, absolutely not. That girl's a nightmare, Dabo. Intrigued, Harusan pressed on, What do you mean? According to her profile, she seems like a perfectly nice girl. Nu groaned in frustration and said, Gee, those profiles are biased. Sakura is a horrible person. She's always calling me a demon and is vicious, both verbally and physically. I never hit back because I know that she's only like that because of her stupid parents. Not to mention, she stalks Sasuke-kwan whenever I'm not around. Gigi, if Sakura is teamed up with me and Sasuke-kwan, she's only going to be more abusive towards me and she's going to distract Sasuke-kwan from his training. Plus, there's the chance of us being deaf because of her data. Harrison was definitely upset that even a girl Nu's age would treat her in such a way. Sakura's parents were both on the civilian council, so of course this would happen. Then there was the part Nu mentioned about profiles that had him curious. Harusan looked for Naru's file and saw it to be true. Nu's file made it sound like Shish was the nightmare. Completely uncooperative and terrible all around. He was definitely going to fix that when this meeting was done. I see. Is there anyone else that you think would be willing to work with you and Sasuke-san? Harrison said. Naru immediately answered, Yeah, Hinataken. This definitely had the old Hokage interested. Originally, he was going to place Hinata on Karina's team, but this may change things. Hinata Hyuga, care to explain why? He asked. Sure, Hinata-chan's the only one in our class that knows I'm a girl. She found out last year and hasn't told anybody. Thank God, she always hangs out with me and Sasuke-kwan, and we train together a lot. She's sweet and kind and is really comfortable around us. Even Sasuke-kwan doesn't have a problem with her. If you put her on a team with me and Sasuke-kwan, we could be Team Dojutsu Dadabo, Naru said excitedly. Harrison chuckled at the title, remembering that Nu had the Sukigen. If she was put on a team that had a Sharing user and a Bakugan user, that could very well be the most powerful team in the village. It would work out, according to Nu, since all three are already best friends. He knew Naru wouldn't lie about this, so he trusted her. He Team Dojutsu, huh? It certainly does have a ring to it, Harrison said. Nu giggled a little, too. Well, what about your Jonin-sensei? What would you want from them? Nu thought about it and said, well, I just want someone that actually teaches us something and doesn't have a biased opinion of me. Harusan grinned and said, well, what if I told you your sensei would be Kakashi Haki? Naru beamed and said, Kakashi, that would be awesome. That would literally be the perfect team. Dadabo, yes, I figured you'd say that. Well, thank you for answering those questions, Naruchan. I will take what you said into consideration. I want you to come here 2 days from now to get your photo taken for your shinobi registration form. As you know, I have other teams to make. So, in 2 weeks, you are to report back at the academy at 8 a.m. for team assignments. Harrison said. Nu nodded and said, okay, thanks, Gigi. I'll see you later. Then she left, leaving Harrison with papers all over his desk. He said it once and he'll say it again. He hated paperwork. After that day, Nu got her picture taken twice, one with her hinge and one without it, just in case she was ready to come out. She was really tempted to wear some type of face paint as a joke, but she figured that would only make things a little worse. Once that was done, Nu spent the rest of her time training and spending time with Sasuke and Hinata. The whole time, Sasuke kept wondering how to figure out if his best friend was really a girl. Then it hit him. Just ask Naruto to spar with him. That way, it would give him an excuse to use his Sharingan to see if there was a henge active. More than a week into the break, Sasuke knocked on Naruto's door. He heard someone fall, grunt, and trudge towards the door. It opened to show Nar in his pajamas. Sasuke, what time is it? Nar yawned. It's only 10 due. You're still sleeping in. Sasuke exasperated. Oh, well, what's up? Naruto asked, feeling a little more awake. Well, I was hoping that later you and I could have a little sparring match. You know, that way we aren't soft by the time we're placed on teams, Sasuke answered. A match? Hell yeah, when do you want to do it? Nar exclaimed. He was always like this when it came to sparring with the Iha. The two always come out better and stronger than when they started. Maybe once you've actually eaten breakfast and gotten ready, Sasuke said, right on it. With that, Naruto shut the door and started getting ready. Just meet me at training ground 7. Dope. Sasuke half shouted from outside. I got it, team. Just don't be asleep when I get there. Nar shouted back, making sure Sasuke left. Naru dropped her henge and got in the shower. Kit, I think you should know this is a trap. Q. B. said. What are you talking about? How is it a trap? Nu asked. I mean that he's probably using this match as an excuse to see if you're a girl or not. And no, I'm not messing with you. Nu palled at the thought and began to panic. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what am I going to do? He's going to find out. Dabo. Nu exclaimed very distressed. Look kid, it's like that Guya said the Aki was going to find out eventually. Relax, it won't be the end of the world. If he's really your best friend, he'll accept you no matter what. Q. B's words did help a little bit as Naru ate, got dressed, put on her henge, and headed towards the training grounds. There, Sasuke was waiting next to a log. He noticed Nar approaching and greeted, Hey, so you ready? Naruto nodded a little nervous. All right, but before we start, let's make things a little interesting, Sasuke said. Naruto was confused and asked, Interesting? What you want to make a bet or something? Sasuke nodded and said, Yeah, and the bet goes like this. Whoever wins gets to make the loser do one thing for them, anything they want. Took only a second for Naruto to realize that if Sasuke won, he'd ask for him to drop the henge. On the other hand, Nar could have Sasuke pay for all the ramen he would eat for dinner. Grinning, Naruto said, "Oh, it's on, Datao." With that, Nar and Sasuke got into their stances and waited a few seconds before charging at each other. They simply started with simple punches and kicks, both of them countering or blocking the attacks. Neither of them have activated their Dojutsu just yet. Nar tried a roundhouse kick, but Sasuke blocked it, grabbed his leg, and threw him at a tree. Nar groaned from the pain, and noticed Sasuke was getting serious. Then he noticed that Sasuke had his Sharingan active. Oh no, he's going to find out. Nu whimpered in her mind. Sasuke saw that he was right. Nar was using a henge, however, that didn't really mean he was a girl. In Sasuke's mind, he tried to think of different reasons for this. That way, he wouldn't be let down in case he was wrong. Maybe Naruto wasn't a girl. Maybe he was horribly scarred and had to wear a hinge to hide the scars. Or maybe he didn't like how he looked. Or yeah, Sasuke was running out of excuses, so he went with the direct approach. "Oi, Nar," Sasuke called out. Nar jumped a little, scared about what would happen next. "Why?" Nar answered, trying to mask how he felt. Then Sasuke asked the dreaded question. "Why are you wearing a hench?" Inside, Naru paused as her fears were coming true. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Datao." Nar stammered, activating his Toucan and rushing into attack. Nar shot out several jabs, a right hook, and a body shot, all blocked by Sasuke. Then he saw an opening and Naruto used an uppercut, landing a direct hit on Sasuke and launching him upward. Not stopping there, he grabbed the Iha's leg and slammed him into the ground. Using his experience from years ago, Naruto tried to push Sasuke back with air pressure, visualizing air pushing outwards at violent speeds. Sure enough, it worked, and Sasuke was sent flying back, his back hitting a tree. The Iha was shocked. Where the hell did Naruto learn something like that? In case you're wondering, I did that thanks to these. Nar said, referring to his eyes. Sasuke immediately understood it was a visual jutsu similar to what Itachi could do with his mango sharing. Sasuke started going through hand signs and declared, "Firest style, fireball jutsu." He shot out a huge ball of fire from his mouth and it was heading towards Nar at high speeds. Naruto went through hand signs as well and declared wind-style air bullet. He shot out pressurized air from his mouth that put out the fireball immediately using the fireball as a distraction. Sasuke went into attack Naruto from behind. However, with his heightened senses, Naruto reacted accordingly and performed the traditional back kick. Sasuke barely blocking it with his crossword. Seeing his chance, Sasuke threw Naruto's leg aside and did an open palm strike while sending chakra to set hand. He hit Naruto square in the chest. Not only sending the Uzumaki back several feet, but also disrupting the henge. He could have sworn he hit something squishy but firm when he sent that chakra pulse. Then Sasuke went through many emotions when he saw his best friend without the henge. From confusion to outright surprised. Laying a few feet away from him in Naruto's place was a girl that bearded a striking resemblance to his best friend. The girl's hair was still spiky and blonde with red highlights, but it went past her shoulders. The girl still had the toucan active and still had the jumpsuit on, though the jacket somehow was opened by the attack, showing some of her hidden figure. Even the whisker marks were still there, somehow making her look cuter. Sasuke was speechless. His suspicions were actually right. Or were they? Maybe Naruto figured out a way to layer Hengus. Or did he use his sexy jutsu as a joke? Sasuke checked with his Sharingan and saw there was no hinge active. This was real. And Nar, Sasuke asked confused. A woe that really hurt Dabo. Nu winced in pain. Then she realized her voice was normal and covered her mouth, hoping Sasuke didn't hear her, but he did. She stared at Sasuke, who looked at her with wide eyes, mouth agape, and trying to form words. Then Naru stared down at herself and saw her hinge dropped and her jacket was open. Nu's face turned red as she zipped up her jacket and tried to hide behind a tree. Sasuke followed and saw Nu sitting, her face covered mostly by her arms and knees, and she was close to crying. She looked like she wanted to hide from the world. "Is that really you, Naruto?" he asked again. Nu looked up at him with a guilty expression and simply nodded. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sasuke." Nu started saying as tears started flowing down her face. Sasuke tried to calm her down and said, "Hey, you didn't do anything wrong." "All right." Nu wasn't convinced. Sasuke looked around, hoping nobody was around, and said, "Hey, let's get you back to your apartment." "All right, we can talk about this there." Nu just nodded, the tears slowing down for the moment, and let Sasuke take her home. Once they were at Naru's apartment, Naru sat on her bed and Sasuke sat right next to her. Naru was a mess at this point. She didn't know what to do. B just stayed silent and watched, wanting to know what Sasuke would do. Sasuke shifted a little, feeling the awkward tension in the air. Then he got the guts to ask Nar, "How long has this been going on?" He gestured towards Nu's figure as he asked this. Naru nervously said, I was always like this. I was born a girl." Sasuke pressed on, "If that's the case, then why did you use a henge to make yourself look like a guy? And why didn't you tell me?" Nerve's tears were coming back as she thought Sasuke was mad at her. In a way, he was, but not for the reasons she thinks. "I'm sorry. Sniff asterisk. I'm really sorry." Sasuke placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and said, "It's okay. I just want to know why. I promise I won't get mad." Nu's eyes widened a little as she stared at Sasuke with disbelief. "Why you promise?" she asked timidly. Sasuke nodded and Nu took a deep breath as she decided to tell him. She told him what she told Hinata the year before about how she was always attacked when she was younger and how it started escalating. She still couldn't bring herself to fully say out loud what almost happened to her. It only made her cry harder. Sasuke managed to put two and two together and he was pissed. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Sasuke asked, wanting to know why the girl lied to him for years. Why the girl hid her pain. I thought that why you'd hate me if I told you. I thought you'd hate me for lying to you, for tricking you all these years, for using you." Nu cried, her insecurities coming to the surface. "I'm sorry, Sasuke. I'm so sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but please don't sob. Please don't hate me." She sobbed even harder. Sasuke couldn't believe his eyes or his ears. Yeah, he was pissed, but only because of how the village treated Nu. He was already pissed since he knew Naru was hated by most people and was somehow called a demon by almost everyone. But now this was different. Nu was almost raped, tortured, and worse. How the hell could the villagers do that to such a nice girl? And at a young age, he was shocked that Nu would even think he would hate her. He had no reason to. He was a little upset that she didn't tell him, but she thought Sasuke would react like he would if he found a fangirl stalking him. The thing was, Sasuke didn't feel that at all. He was sure that deep down, Naru is still the same as the best friend he remembered growing up with, but he had to make sure. "Was there anything else you lied about when we hung out? Besides the whole gender thing?" Sasuke asked, strangely sounding calm. Naru shook her head furiously and said, "And no, just that. Then all those times we hung out together, you were being yourself?" Sasuke asked. Nu stared at him and nodded. Then Sasuke wrapped her in a hug. "Then why would I hate you? Boy or girl, you're still my best friend," he said. Nu's eyes widened in shock. "Why you mean it? Why you really don't hate me?" she asked in disbelief. Sasuke simply said, "Yeah, I mean it, dope." Nu then clung to Sasuke and bawled her eyes out on his shoulder. First it was Hinata that accepted her. And now even Sasuke accepted her. He didn't hate her. She couldn't believe it. It was too good to be true. But it was true, and that was what filled Nu with so much happiness. All these years she worried over nothing. Once Nu calmed down, they separated and Sasuke decided to get an actual up-close look at Nu. Overall, she was beautiful. He couldn't understand why the villagers would do something so horrible to her. It doesn't make sense. He wanted to ask about it, but he didn't because he wanted Naru to tell him when she was ready. Then he started to wonder who else knew about Naru. "Nar, does anybody else know about the real you?" Sasuke asked. Naru wiped her tears away and said, "Why? The family that runs Ikaraku, Kakashi, Pervy, Sage, Hokage, Makoto, Basin, and Hinataken." Sasuke was surprised by the last two. "Wait, my mom and Hinata know about you?" he asked. Makoto Basin knew from the beginning and Hinataken found out last year. She caught me training without my henge. I panicked and once I explained everything, she promised she wouldn't tell anyone. That's mostly why she started hanging out with us more," Naru said. Sasuke took this in and it certainly made sense. It definitely did explain why Hinata slowly started getting more confidence and why she hung out with them more often. Then another thought hit him. Is Nar even your real name? He asked her. Nu laughed sheepishly, scratched the back of her head, and said, why, yeah, it is, but I prefer going by Naru. I only use my full name when I'm using my henge since it sounds more like a boy's name than a girl's. Dadabo. Sasuke just nodded. I still don't get why you thought I'd take it badly though. Did you think I treat you like those fangirls? He asked, shuddering at the last word. Nu just nodded. So Sasuke asked, why would you think that? Na took a deep breath and said, because I know how you get around most girls. I was afraid that you'd think I was just another fangirl stalking you, using you, and trying to get close to you. I was afraid you'd hate me if you knew the real me. I grew up having a lot of people hating me and I don't know what I'd do if you hated me too. While Sasuke was hearing Nu's explanation, he was still trying to process everything that's happened. She clearly didn't have a whole lot of confidence in others and herself when it came to revealing herself or just being herself. Plus, she was afraid of how he would take it. Why would his opinion matter that much to her? And less. Sasuke looked Naru in the eye and asked, Naru, how do you feel about me? It took a minute for Naru to process what she was asked, but once it sank in, she turned red all over and started stuttering, "We the hell are you talking about, Dadabo?" Seeing Nu react like this was really amusing to both Sasuke and Q, who was in his cage laughing hard. Sasuke just gestured for her to answer. So Naru blushed a little harder and got out. QB just groaned and said, oh, for crying out loud, Kit, just say it. You know you want to, so just do it. Nero struggled to get the words out, but she finally said, I like you, Sasuke. If it was possible, her blush got darker, making her look similar to Hinata when she gets flustered. Sasuke was definitely surprised by this and seeing him not answer. Nero quickly answered in a panicking tone, but not like those fangirls. Dabo, I mean, they have an obsession and I'm not obsessed or anything. I just mean that since I've known you for years that I really like you and you've always been nice to me, even when everyone else wasn't. And damn it, I'm rambling. Dadabo. Sasuke just laughed a little at Nu's reaction. She was definitely cuter when she acted all flustered. He was glad she liked him for actual reasons, unlike his fangirls. Naru just stared at him and asked, what's so funny? You all flustered like that? Sasuke answered, it's not funny, Dabo. Nu shouted in embarrassment. Well, it kind of is. I mean, I'm used to you being a guy, so seeing the real you acting all flustered like a real girl is fun to watch. Nu was definitely embarrassed right now. Didn't say something like that. Dadabo, it's embarrassing, she said timidly. Sasuke was really enjoying messing with Nu. There aren't many girls that he actually liked. And so far, Nu seemed to be the only girl he could really stand next to Hinata. Plus, Nu said she liked him because he was one of the few people to show her any kindness. She didn't care for his clan name or his wealth or his power. All she cared about was just him. Well, I'm glad you don't act like those fangirls. At least, Sasuke said, trying to get Naru acting normal again. It worked, and she said, yeah, there's no way in hell I'd be caught acting like one of them. They're just sad. The two laughed a little, remembering how the fangirls would normally act, caring more about their looks, fashion, and boys than actual shinobi training. But you won't have to worry about that with me. I still train and I usually hide my looks anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Nu said, still worried she might be compared to them at some point. Naru, I know that already. I'm not going to compare you to them. Sasuke reassured. Then he rubbed the back of his neck and said, actually, to be honest, you look better than everyone else anyway. Nerve's blush started taking in a little pink as she said, why, you really think so? Sasuke nodded, clearly a little embarrassed, too. The compliment alone made Nara's heart feel like it grew wings and was flying. She couldn't remember ever being this happy. Just then, they heard someone knock on the door and Naru jumped a little. Sasuke went to get the door and saw it was Hinata. As Sasuke-san, is Naruto in here? Hinata asked. Yeah, Naru's in here. Sasuke replied. This had Hinata very surprised. He actually found out. But how? Hinata rushed in and saw Naru on the bed. Naruchan, she exclaimed. Hey, Hinaden, what's up? Naru said sheepishly. How did Sasuke-sen find out? Hinata asked, taking a seat right next to Naru. Well, I asked Nu to spar with me, and I disrupted the henge during the fight. I brought her back here and she explained everything. Sasuke answered for Nu. As he was explaining, Nu suddenly remembered how the henge was disrupted. He had palm striked her right in the chest in between her breasts. Nu blushed furiously as she punched Sasuke in the head and yelled, "You jerk." Sasuke was definitely confused now. What did he do? What the hell was that for? He asked. That was for what you did back in the training grounds. Nu said, not even facing Sasuke. Hinata saw Nu's face was red. So she asked Naruto W. What did Sasuke-san do to you? A tick mark appeared on Nu's head as she snapped. He hit me in the chest with an open palm strike. Dadabo with chakra. This didn't help the confusion. Hinata just tilted her head, not understanding. And Sasuke just said, "You make it sound like it's a big deal. We were sparring, remember?" Naru just turned around and said, "You hit me in the chest, right in the middle. Don't you get it?" Hinata gasped and blushed a little. Finally getting it, Sasuke was still a little slow, so Hinata said, Sasuke-san. I think what she's trying to say is UT touched her where US shouldn't took a minute for him to get it, but when he did he was the one blushing. I didn't mean to do that, I swear, Sasuke exclaimed, trying to make things right. Nu just hit him again and shouted, "You freaking hit my boobs." Dabo now QB was having the time of his life right now. "Oh man, this is too good," got out between laughs. "Shut up, you perverted fox," Nu shouted in her head. And Naru-chan, "I'm sure Sasuke-san didn't mean it," and said while the situation was a little funny to her. She sort of felt bad for Sasuke since he made a mistake and was paying for it in pain. Naru just stared at Sasuke suspiciously and said, Fine. I forgive you team, just don't do that again." "Okay." Sasuke got up and started nodding fast. Nu's anger was not to be tested or else. After Nu calmed down, she turned to Hinata. And asked, "So, what did you stop by for Hinata-kan?" Hinata remembered the reason for her visit and responded, Oh, well, we only have a few days before team selections and Nu assumed what the girl came for and finished. "You wanted to hang out before we're put in teams, right?" Hinata nodded. Nu got up and said happily, "I'd love to. Actually, we could all hang out today." Sasuke turned to the blonde and asked, "You sure? It kind of seems like a girls' night thing." Nu simply said, "It's fine, Dadabo. I'll even go out like this." Both Hinata and Sasuke looked at her with worried expressions. "Are you sure, Naruto-chan?" Hinata asked, remembering what Naru said about how the villagers treated her. "Yeah, it's fine. I doubt the villagers remember what I look like as a girl. Anyway, that may be, but your jumpsuit will give you away and your little whisker marks," Sasuke pointed out. Naru looked down at her clothes and groaned. "Yeah, but I don't have much else. I could hide the marks easily, though." Sasuke immediately suggested, "I could ask my mom to get some stuff for you. Besides, you need a better wardrobe anyway." Nu was really grateful and said she was okay with it. An hour later, Makoto came over with clothes for Naru. She was glad her son still accepted Naru and was happy to see Nu smiling the way she was. Makoto gave the clothes to Naru, who went into the bathroom to change. The older Akia looked around the apartment with disdain and said, "I still can't believe they forced Naruto to live in a place like this." Sasuke and Hinata agreed. The place was a dump. It was bad enough. The apartment complex looked terrible from the outside, but Naru's was worse. Years of breaking and entering have caused the apartment to look like bombs were dropped everywhere. It was no place for a 13-year-old girl to live in. Makoto Basin, I need some help." Naru called from the bathroom sounding embarrassed. Makoto looked a little confused at first, but immediately remembered why Naru asked this. Nu hardly ever wore clothes for girls, so they were practically foreign to her. When Makoto entered the bathroom to help, it turned out that there was another issue. Not only were the clothes difficult for Nu to put on, but they were also a little short on her. Apparently, the young girl grew recently, and the jumpsuit hid it pretty damn well. Take that however you want. Eventually, the two came out of the bathroom. Makoto looking like a proud mother. Naru just looking shy and embarrassed. Sasuke was so used to the jumpsuit, he didn't expect Naru to look so good in actual clothes. The girl wore a simple white shirt with the fire symbol on the front, skinny jeans, and her regular sandals. The clothes themselves weren't the reason Sasuke was so shocked. No, the reason was that the clothes clung to Naru, showing the figure that was normally hidden under her jumpsuit. Plus, she used a hinge to cover the whisker marks, so she looked like a normal girl. "Yeah, nobody's going to recognize her looking like that," Hinata gushed and said, Wow, Narachan, why you look great. Nu gave a small smile and said, thanks, Hinatakan. Then she caught Sasuke staring at her and blushed a little. What? Naru asked. Sasuke snapped out of his trance and said, nothing. You look really good in that. That's all. Naru blushed again and said, thanks, Sasuke-kwan. Once they were ready, they left. As they were leaving, Mosquito said, have fun you three. They all just smiled as they went out. So, knew about that bet. Sasuke started. Oh, yeah, we never finished the match, did we? Nu said, remembering what they promised. Well, I'll just let you get the prize. Nu was a little surprised Sasuke would just let her have the prize from the bet. Hey, are you sure? She asked. Sasuke nodded and said, yeah, I'll do one thing for you today. Anything you want. Part of him was nervous of what Nu would demand. Part of him thought Nu would make him pay for her ramen, and she eats a lot of that stuff in one meal. Another part of him was a little afraid that Nu would want something else, something his fangirls would kill for. Naru contemplated, wondering what she wanted. Then an imaginary light bulb appeared above her head as she said, I want you to come hang out with me and Hinatakan and pay for our lunch. Well, his first thought was right. Now, that was something he could handle. At least until he realized that by doing that he would be flat broke by the end of the night. After that day, whenever they weren't in public, Nu would have her henge off when she was around Hinata and Sasuke. Honestly, the thought of finally being her true self and not hiding from them anymore was enough to fill her with joy. Sasuke learned that even as a girl, Nu still did a lot of the same things she did with her henge, one with a few differences. Obviously, the girl was a tomboy that went without saying. However, now whatever she did seemed cute to Sasuke. Every time she laughed, Sasuke couldn't help but smile at the sight. He noticed Nu acted a little more shy around him, especially whenever he's nice to her. Then, Sasuke remembered Nu saying she liked him. While she made it clear she wasn't going to obsess over him like the fangirls, it was also clear to Sasuke that Nu's feelings for him were definitely strong and genuine. He learned this when the three went to Asharaku's and teased Naru about it. The girl got flustered in no time and tried to cover it up. The whole time Sasuke thought about what was going to happen now that he knows the truth. Though one thing he made clear was he wanted to get to know Nu as much as he could. The day before team selections, Sasuke asked Nu if she was willing to sleep over at the Iha compound. The girl beamed and agreed on the spot. Sasuke told Makoto about it and she was more than happy about it. She started cooking right away. So when Nu arrived, the food was done. As Nu approached the estate, she was nervous. She knew Sasuke asked if she wanted to sleep over, but several thoughts were going through her head, mainly what she thought would happen during the little sleepover. First, she thought they would just be talking about a lot of things, though she knew Sasuke wanted to know more about her. Then the thought of them cuddling in their sleep came into her head and Nu blushed furiously. Her imagination started getting more intimate. Then it turned just plain erotic and Nu's ears were puffing out smoke. She was that embarrassed by the thoughts. She didn't hate them, but she was still embarrassed. What the hell am I thinking? Dadabo. Sasuke-kwan wouldn't want to do something like that. Right then she heard QB laughing up a storm and she knew the reason. QB, did you put those thoughts into my head? She demanded. You're goddamn right I did. Who? With a eating grin. Nu just groaned from annoyance and embarrassment from the tailed beast's antics. Nu knocked on the door and Sasuke was the one who answered. Hey, Nu. Sasuke greeted with a smile. Naru smiled back and said, Hi, Sasuke-kwan. Thanks for inviting me over. Sasuke let her in, and Nu was still amazed with how the huge house looked. It definitely made her apartment look like a closet. Makoto came out of the kitchen and greeted Nu-chan. It's so good to see you again. She gave Nu a big hug, which was returned. It's really good to see you, too, Makoto. Basin, Nu said, enjoying her aunt's embrace. Itachi walked into the room and was confused by the sight. Sasuke, who's that girl hugging mother? I wasn't aware you were dating already. Itachi asked, wanting to mess with him a little. Both Sasuke and Nu blushed furiously at the statement. Naru started stammering and Sasuke-kun ddd dating. I sent that al little photo. Itachi recognized the verbal tick and said in surprise, Naruto. Sasuke groaned and explained that Naru had a henge on the whole time and this was who she really was. He also explained she was sleeping over tonight. Itachi looked at the two of them, ruffled Sasuke's hair, and said in a joking tone, "It would seem my little brother's growing up." Sasuke groaned in annoyance as he saw Naru was still blushing. Once that was cleared up, they started eating dinner. Throughout the meal, Itachi and Makoto were asking Naru questions about how things were going with her. Nu answered them, all with a smile that never left her face. "So, Naruto-chan, how do you feel about Sasuke?" Itachi asked suddenly. Sasuke wanted to bang his head repeatedly on the table for asking Nu something he knew would be embarrassing for her. Naru blushed and said, "Well, I like him." Itachi decided to press on just to mess with her. "You like him as what? A friend or maybe something more?" he asked. Nu's blush darkened and she blurted out, "I don't know, Dadabo. I know I like him, but I don't want to be like that pink banshee or the other stalkers." Well, Itachi got what he wanted. Nero clearly had strong feelings for Sasuke. Maybe even loves him, but is afraid to act on it. Sasuke picked up a little on that, too. Sure, he liked her, too, but he didn't want to rush it. Sasuke held Nu's hand, trying to calm her down and said, "I know you don't act like them, so don't worry about it." Nu's heart fluttered a little when Sasuke held her hand. She smiled warmly and said, "Thanks, Sasuke." Kuin. Sasuke's face turned a little red from seeing Nu smiling at him, but luckily nobody noticed. When everyone finished eating, Nu offered to help clean up, which Makoto was grateful for. "So, you really like Sasuke-chan, huh?" Makoto asked, wanting to know more. Naru almost dropped the dish she was washing as she said shyly. "Why?" Makoto found this cute and squealed while hugging her niece. "Oh, I can't believe how fast you're growing up. Your mom would be so proud of you," she said while Nu was still embarrassed by what Makoto asked her. The mention of her mom was enough to make her feel warm inside. Makoto let her go and asked, "So, how long has this been going on?" Naru tried to remember when she started seeing Sasuke as more than a friend, but she couldn't quite place it. I don't know. I know I've liked him as a friend since we were kids, but I don't know when I started to, when you started loving him." Makoto teased. Nu blushed hard and exclaimed, "Be basin." The older woman really knew how to make Naru embarrassed, especially if she mentioned Sasuke. Inside Naru's mind, she was trying to get a grip on her sanity. She knew she liked Sasuke a lot. She'd go as far as to say she had a crush on him, but to say she loved him. Did her feelings go that deep? "Trust me, kid, even I can tell you love that kid," QB said from his seal. Nu just groaned and said, "Am I really that obvious?" QB just gave a deadpan stare and said, "Yes, you are. Seriously, kid, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Even that Iha kid is starting to get that impression." Nu almost snapped and said, "What? I don't believe you." QB unfazed responded, "Well, I don't care if you don't because he's starting to be in a similar situation. You forget, I can sense emotions from you humans, so I know what I'm talking about." Nu was confused by this and asked, "Wait, I thought you could only sense negativity. Since when could you sense other emotions?" "I've always been able to do it, Kit. Though, I'm best at sensing negativity. The rest is a little trickier. And before you ask, no, you can't sense other emotions." QB clarified. Naru processed what she was just told. It certainly explained why Sasuke has been treating her different, but she didn't want to get her hopes up. Instead, she left the mindscape and tried to get back to cleaning up. Once everything was cleaned up, Makoto gave Naru permission to sleep in Sasuke's room. The thought of the two sleeping together in the same room normally didn't freak Naru out as much as it did now. Back then, Naru had her henge, so it wasn't weird. Now Sasuke knew, so there was no telling how awkward things would get. When she went up to the room, Sasuke was already there. Sasuke-kwan. I don't know if you knew this, but Nu started nervously. "Yeah, I know you're sleeping in here. It's fine." Sasuke said. This made Nu feel a whole lot better. "Oh, okay, I thought you'd be weirded out or something." Sasuke gave her a weird look and asked, "Why would I be weirded out?" Nu's face wrinkled slightly as she said, "Well, it's just that, you're going to be having a girl sleep in the same room as you." Sasuke tried to understand what Na was saying and slowly realized why she was acting like this. Back then, when they had the occasional sleepover, they usually shared the bed as they didn't have a guest room. Of course, they stayed on their respective ends as the bed was big. But what Sasuke didn't know was that every time Nu was ecstatic and embarrassed about the situation, though she hit it very well with her henge, but she couldn't do that anymore. Oh, Sasuke said as the realization just dawned on him. Well, I could just sleep on the floor and you take the bed. Nu frantically said, and no, you don't have to do that, Sasuke-kwan. I'll sleep on the floor. Sasuke just shook his head and said, Nu, there is no way in hell I'll let you sleep on the floor. While Nu was very touched that Sasuke said that there was still the problem with sleeping arrangements. So, you're okay with Emiya sleeping in the same bed as Wu? She asked. Sasuke gave Nu one of his rarest smiles and said, if it's you, yeah. Nu's heart practically skipped a beat. Sasuke hardly smiled like he used to. So for him to say such a nice thing with the one thing she missed on his face, it made her really happy. Okay, Naru said happily, one tear of joy sliding down her face. They decided to take turns changing into their pajamas in the bathroom. And once they did, they got into bed. Nu's breath hitched when Sasuke held her hand. She saw him looking at her, his smile still there. Sasuke-kwan, Naru asked. Yeah, Nu blushed a little and said with pure happiness, thank you for not hating me. Sasuke just wrapped her arms around Naru in a hug and said, hating you is impossible, especially after everything we've been through. I'll always be here for you, Nu. Naru thought she couldn't be happier, but she was proven wrong. She snuggled closer into the embrace and said, thank you, Sasuke. I'll be there for you too, Dadabo. She soon fell asleep using Sasuke as a pillow. He actually liked seeing Nu like this, seeing her look so delicate and vulnerable in her sleep. Sasuke swore to stand by his word and always be there for Naru no matter what. The next morning, Harrison called in the Jonin instructors to let them know who they are responsible for teaching should they pass the true final test. He went down the list until he was down to 2 Jonin. Kurenai Yuhi, the Genjutsu mistress, and Kakashi Hideki, the copy ninja and former. Kurenai, I'm afraid I have made changes to the squad roster for your team. Harrison said, knowing how the young woman would take it. Kurenai was definitely worried. What did he mean by that? She had some worries and suspicions, but she just hoped they would be wrong. What changes, Hokage-sama? Kurenai said, trying to mask her fears. Harrison still saw them inside. He saw this coming, so he figured he should break it to her slowly. Hopefully she would understand. I'm placing Hinata Hyuga on Team 7. Sakura Haruno will take her place on Team 8. Harusen said. Kurenai palled a little. Her worst fear came true. Kakashi's eye just widened as this was a sudden change. And may I ask why? This team was made specifically for tracking. Changing one of the members could make that purpose null and void. Kurenai said she really wanted Hinata on the team, not just because of how she'd contribute to the team, but because the two were really close. The woman was like a mother figure to Hinata, and she really wanted to help the young girl heal from the emotional damage done by the Hyuga clan elders, as well as her own father. Well, I realized that had I left the team lineups as they were, there would have been major consequences, Heron explained. Major consequences? What kind? Kakashi inquired. Naru brought this up and I looked into what she said. Explain this to me, you two. How do you think Team 7 would be with Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke, Akiya, and Sakura Haruno? Kurenai pondered and came to a conclusion. There would be friction in the team. She said. Kakashi found an answer too. The girl would be a problem given her behavior. From what Naruchan told me, Sakura Haruno is verbally and physically abusive to her as well as the worst of Sasuke's fangirls. Their progress would be hindered because of her. Kakashi said. Harrison nodded and said yes. Hinata, on the other hand, would help the two improve. Sasuke has recently discovered Nu's true identity, and Hinata has known for some time. Placing them on the same team as her would help Nu grow as well. The girl's already done wonders with breaking the young Hyuga out of her shell. Kurenai nodded, now realizing why Hinata has been a little more cheerful lately. I see, so placing Hinata on the same team as Nu would be beneficial for everyone. Kurina, I guess that. And I noticed Sakura is more suited for using genjutsu like you, Kurenai. If she were under your wing, she might just become a better kunoichi as a result. That, and I'm hoping you might be able to break her out of her fangirl phase. Harusen added. The two Jonin thought this over and accepted what Harusen just said. Sasuke woke up early that morning and was a little surprised to see Nu still using his chest as a pillow. He had to will himself to not have a nosebleed. Why? Because the girl looked insanely cute when she slept. And B said girl was literally using him as a pillow. Normally, he would shrug off such things, but since it's Naru, he couldn't. And Nu's pajamas didn't help considering all she wore was a t-shirt and shorts. This meant Sasuke was feeling Nar's breasts on his chest, and he was not sure how to handle it. When he accidentally hit them days ago, he remembered them having a squishy feeling. Now they still had the same feeling. Squishy but also firm, which was odd to him. Before he could start losing blood, Sasuke poked Naru's nose, trying to wake her up. Naru eventually started waking up, yawning cutely as she opened her eyes slowly. Naru just saw Sasuke poking her nose and she giggled. Morning, Sasuke-kwan, Nu said, not used to waking up like this. Morning, did you sleep all right? Sasuke asked. Nu nodded and said, yep, I haven't slept so good in a long time. I feel great, Dabo. Sasuke was glad Naru was feeling better after everything. But he still wanted to address Nerve's current position. Nu, I don't know if you noticed, Sasuke said, gesturing to Nu's current position. Naru looked to what Sasuke was talking about and saw she was still using him as a pillow. Though when she noticed she was pressing her breasts against his chest, she blushed furiously, got up immediately and said, oh my god, I'm so sorry, Sasuke. I swear I wasn't trying anything. Dadabo, really, I know, dope, relax, I know you're not like that. Sasuke reassured. This calmed Nero down a lot, but then Sasuke mumbled, besides, I didn't really mind it. Nu's blush intensified as she thought, he liked it. He liked me sleeping with him like that. Na didn't know what to say, so instead of saying coherent words, she started babbling nonsense instead. Sasuke saw Naru flustered and stifled a laugh, finding it amusing. He noticed he's been thinking that a lot lately, especially when it came to Nu. He never really felt anything for other girls, mainly because they were mostly fan girls and the only exceptions were Nu and Hinata. Hinata was nice, but the only thing he felt around her was what he would feel for a friend. With Nu, there was more. He didn't know how to explain it or what to think about it. All he knew was he had to figure this stuff out and fast. Naru suddenly got off the bed and said, I'll be in the bathroom. Don't want to be late, Dabo. Then she left in a hurry, leaving a smoke trail behind her. Sasuke noticed the time and saw it was 7 a.m., which meant they only had an hour before team placement started. He also noticed Naru bolted for the bathroom that was linked to his bedroom. Sighing, Sasuke just made do with the bathroom across the hall. It was bigger anyway. Nu was beyond embarrassed by her own actions. She cuddled Sasuke in her sleep, used his chest like a pillow, and practically clung to him until he woke her up in the most adorable way possible. Seriously, she was just tempted to do it back to him and say, boop. Naru hadn't realized Sasuke had an affectionate side, so this was foreign territory. Trying to block the thoughts from her mind, she striped naked and jumped in the shower. I can't believe that happened, Dabo. Nu whispered to herself as she felt the warm water on her body. Well, it happened, Kit. I'm just surprised he hasn't banged you yet, Kyubi said, chuckling at that last sentence. Naru went red from head to toe and screamed through the bars. Shut up, you pervy fox. I told you Sasuke-kun isn't like that. Dabo. Q just waved it off and said, oh, please. The Iha's definitely having those thoughts. The only thing is he hides them pretty damn well. You wouldn't know obviously. Nu's embarrassment only grew. Was Sasuke thinking those kind of things? Well, he has been treating her nicer than before. But that was because he knew the truth. Okay, most of it since he still doesn't know about the whole Ginuriki thing. That little fact she was still nervous about telling. Noticing Nu's conflicted feelings, Kyubi said, look, Kit, jokes aside, the Iha does seem to have feelings for you, too. Though, like you, he's not sure what to make of them. If you're so worried about what he'll think of you being my host, don't be. If he truly cares about you, then knowing about me won't change that. Compared to your last little secret, this shouldn't even faze him. Nu smiled and said, thanks, QB, you're really sweet. You know that, even if you are a perv, QB, just gave the girl a look and said, Kit, everyone has their pervy side. It's just that I'm not afraid to show mine with pride. Naru was well aware of the tailed beast's perverted streak and just groaned. I'm so glad you haven't spoken to pervy sage yet. That would be really bad, Dadabo. She exasperated. While Nu was showering, Sasuke was still trying to figure out everything that happened earlier. He could understand why Nu was embarrassed. She never did something like that before. Hopefully, she'd be more comfortable around him. Sasuke got out of the shower and went back to his room wearing only a towel around his waist. He noticed Naru was still in the shower, so he started to get dressed. However, Sasuke only got as far as his shorts before Naru came out, wearing a towel to cover most of her body. They stared at each other for a brief second before they screamed from shock and embarrassment. Wahaha, oh man, great way to start the day, kid, practically flashing your tits in his face. Genius. Haha, laughter QB said, laughing his ass off. Nu couldn't take her eyes off of Sasuke. Whoa, Sasuke-kwan looks so hot. I had no idea he was so toned. If he looks this good without a shirt, I wonder how he'd thought embarrassed by her own thoughts. I knew Nu had a nice figure, but this is no, don't think like that. You're an Iha. Nu's your best friend. Don't act like a perv around her. Sasuke thought, really trying not to have a nosebleed, though. That was kind of hard considering he could clearly see Nu's cleavage above the towel and it clung to her. Nu, still blushing madly from the situation, tried saying, I'm so sorry. Sasuke, I didn't know you'd still be here. Sasuke broke out of his little trance and said, it's fine. I thought I'd have enough time to change while you were in there. He had to look away a little because Naru was still in a towel and his face was getting redder by the minute from the situation. Plus, some blood managed to leak. Sasuke quickly put on his shirt and Nu was both relieved and disappointed by this. At least he put his shirt back on. Though he did look really good without it. What is wrong with me, Dabo? Nu thought, her mind conflicted. It's a little thing, hormones kit, and it only gets better from here, Q said in between chuckles. Sasuke went into Nu's bag, grabbed one of Nu's emergency jumpsuits, and gave it to her. Here, put this on. Sasuke said, still trying to look away, but his eyes always drew back to her. Feeling grateful, Naru said, thanks. I won't take long, promise. Then she rushed back into the bathroom, but came out a second later and asked, Sasuke, see, could you pass me my bag? I need my underwear, Dabo. Sasuke didn't need to know that, so he grabbed it and practically threw the bag at her. Nu thanked him again and went back in. Sasuke let out a sigh, not knowing how much he could have taken from that little scenario. He went downstairs to have breakfast where Makoto and Itachi greeted him. Ah, Sasuke-chan. Good morning, Makoto said cheerfully. Morning, Sasuke said, wanting to forget what happened earlier. So, what was that screaming from earlier? I hope you weren't doing anything to dear little Naru. Itachi questioned. Damn you, Itachi, Sasuke thought. He immediately retorted, I didn't do anything to her. Itachi just nodded, not buying it for a second. A few minutes later, Nu came downstairs in her jumpsuit and said with her famous smile, Morning, everyone, what's for breakfast? Everyone greeted her, and Makoto told the girl she made anai for everyone, since she knew they didn't have long before they had to leave. So, Narachan, what was all that screaming about? Makoto asked. Sasuke could feel Itachi's grin, knowing how honest Naru could be. Nu blushed and said, well, Sasuke-ku accidentally ran into me when I got out of the shower, and I only had a tea towel on. Dadabo, her embarrassment came back and multiplied from that explanation. Makoto tried to silence her laughs, but a few giggles still came through. Itachi, on the other hand, just turned to Sasuke with a eating grin and said, so nothing happened, huh? Shut up. Sasuke retorted, his face as red as news. Once they ate, Sasuke and Nu noticed they only had 10 minutes before team selection started. Okay, Mom, we're heading out, Sasuke said. Okay, good luck. You too, Makoto said, proud of the two children. Once they were outside, Naru put her henge back on. Why, you put that back on? Sasuke asked. Because you may know about me, but nobody else does. Naruto explained. Plus, I don't feel like I'm ready to tell everyone just yet. Sasuke stared at him and just accepted his words. The two made it to the academy pretty quickly and ran into Hinata on the way. Morning Hinataken, Naruto greeted, running to the girl and giving her a big hug. Hinata blushed at the sudden affection, returned the hug and said, Good morning, Naruto-kun. Sasuke-san. Sasuke grunted out a greeting and the three went inside. When they went inside the classroom, almost everyone was there. The only ones that haven't arrived yet were Sakura and Ino, so they had a few minutes of peace. Yo, Nar, you passed. Congrats, man, Ka cheered. Aimu barked a few times, probably congratulating the blonde. Yeah, thanks, Ka. You, too, Amu. Nar said, petting the dog who enjoyed his touch. So, come on, you got to tell us. How'd you do it? You had some ace up your sleeve. What is it? Ka inquired, wondering how Naruto did so good in the exams. Everyone else got curious, too, and listened in. Naruto just said, okay, I do have an ace, but I hardly used it in the exams. Now, he had the whole classroom's attention. Seriously, what was it? Ka kept asking. Naruto scratched the back of his head and said, well, I have a Dojutsu like Sasuke team here. Ka's jaw dropped as Shikamaru looked disbelieving. I never heard of the Uzumaki clan having a Dojutsu. How do we know it's not just a joke? Shikamaru asked. Well, it's not in the textbooks. That's why you don't know. And it's not a joke, Dadabo. Here, I'll show you. Naruto exclaimed. He made sure all eyes were on him before sending chakra to his eyes, activating his toucan. Everyone practically got out of their seats. They were that surprised. Even the lazy Nar got up. He was that stunned. Whoa, how are you two not surprised by this? Ka asked, referring to Sasuke and Hinata. We knew, Sasuke simply said, not wanting to explain anymore. Well, why didn't you tell us you had something that awesome? Ka pressed on. Well, I was told not to use it at the academy only for emergencies. Plus, these eyes are the reason my hair turned a little red. It's a side effect, Dadabo. Nar explained. So, what would this particular dojutsu be? Shino inquired. It's called the Sukin, and it's ultra rare, even among the Uzumaki clan. My mom had it and I inherited it, Naruto explained. Everyone's eyes widened as they were surprised by this information. These bad boys can copy and predict movements like teams sharing see a person's chakra network and through walls like Hanaden's Bakugan, and I even got a sonar mode Dadabo. Naruto continued, making sure to leave out the matter manipulation ability. He wanted to keep that a secret for a little while. Now, everyone was confused by that last bit, including Sasuke and Hinata. Sonar, you never mentioned that, Naruto. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Sasuke asked. It's called second vision, and it's like the Bakugan's 360 vision, but I can't see as far. It links to my seeing through walls thing, and it works even when my vision's messed with. I don't know if I can do it with my eyes open, though, Nar said sheepishly. Nu only tried it when she closed her eyes or had a blindfold on. Bai wasn't even sure if it could be done with your eyes open. That sounds amazing. Naruto Kwan Hinata said, happy for him. Yeah, try it out. Ka encouraged. Nar moved his headband from his forehead to over his eyes and sent slightly more chakra to them, activating the sonar. Okay, it's on, Nar informed. Great. Now, how many fingers am I holding up? KBA asked, going through a series of numbers. 1 3 5 7 1 0 2 for __, you 2, Ka. Nar said when Ka stuck the middle finger. Everyone laughed, including Ka, as he was hoping the blonde would say that. Awesome, can you read like that too? Ka said, amazed. Yep, I still see everything in detail from texts to a person's face. I can even see things outside. Oh, Naruto said, paling at what he saw. Choji, munching on his chips, asked, what's wrong? Naruto. Naruto turned his head mechanically and just said, the fangirls are coming. Sasuke paused too and asked immediately, which ones? Naruto didn't even have to focus on the two-figure approaching at high speeds to know who. The Banshee and the Fashion Police. He said everyone knew who they were, Sakura and Ino. Everyone got their earplugs ready and Naruto and Hinata made sure that they were next to Sasuke so that the fangirls wouldn't get near him. Then the two fangirls burst into the room and said in unison, I win. Then they got into a glaring contest and tried to race to sit next to Sasuke, finding the seats were already occupied. Out of the way, Narutbaka, I'm sitting next to Sasuke Kyan. You too, Hyuga, Sakura yelled, malice coating her voice. Naruto just stared at them with his toucan still active and Ino flinched at the stare. However, Sakura wasn't moved. And now you're trying to copy Sasuke Kyan. When are you going to learn that a loser like you can never be like Sasuke Kyan? She screamed. Good thing everyone upgraded their earplugs. The noise was less damaging. Everyone looked to see if the glass was affected and it shook. It shook. They're close. Wow, not even a minute. Record time. Q. B. actually counted how long it would take for the pink-haired girl to scream at Nar. Wow, you were right on the money. Kuchin, Nu said. Kuchin, what the hell, Kit? Q. Bai exclaimed. Naru just tilted her head a little and said, what? It's your nickname. Q. B. Rubbed his temples and said, I'm aware it's a nickname, but why would you make that my nickname? Naru just huffed and said, well, I don't even know if tailed beasts have real names, and I wanted to call you something that's cute, and I thought Kuchin was cute. Q. Bai blinked a few times, unsure if what he heard was true. This girl called him Kuchin because she thought it was cute. She even wanted to know if tailed beasts had names. He was touched, but he had too much pride to show it at the moment. Ahem, well, tailed beasts do have names, but I'm not telling you mine just yet. Q. B. said. A. Can I at least call you Kuchan? Nu pouted cutely. Q. Bai just sent the girl out of the mindscape. Before Naruto could say anything, Sasuke said, Sakura, they're sitting here and Naruto isn't copying me. That's his power. Honestly, I thought you were supposed to be smart. Sakura sighed but relented. Her crush was acting differently more than usual. She wondered if Nar had anything to do with it. Fine, stay there. But why is a loser like you even here? This is for actual graduates, not dropouts. Sakura demanded, at least having the courtesy to not scream. I did graduate, Sakura. Or didn't you notice? Nar said, referring to his headband. You cheated. You had to. That's the only explanation, Sakura exclaimed clearly in denial. Just then entered the room and before he could say anything, Sakura went to him and said, Uraraka-sensei, why is Narutobaka here? He's the dead last, a loser. Ra was already a little irritated and said, well, Naruto passed. That's why he's here. Everyone snickered at Rei's response. Sakura didn't want to believe it, but seeing that Ria wasn't going to budge, she huffed and went to her seat. Anyway, now as you know, from this day on, you are all Shinobi of the Leaf Village. Ra started, grateful he didn't have to use his infamous big head jutsu to get everyone's attention. Sakura did that for him in her own annoying way. He began a somewhat lengthy speech, one that Naru and a few others didn't really pay attention to. Then started going through the teams. The first 6 were made of Janine from civilian families. Ra knew they wouldn't pass because of the final test, but it had to be done. Next up is Team 7. The members are Sasuke Iha. Ira said, gaining everyone's attention. All of Sasuke's fangirls begged internally that they would be on a team with him. It didn't help that he turned out to be Rookie of the Year. Ra noticed their not-so-subtle pleading, looked down at his board and announced the next member. Naruto Uzumaki. They looked at each other and grinned. I'm actually on a team with Sasuke Kwan. Woohoo. I'm on a team with my first best friend. Dabo. Nu cheered in her head. She was tempted to cheer out loud, but she knew that it would seem really odd. 2 members down, only 1 left. Every fangirl in the room was begging to every god in existence that they'd be put on the same team. They didn't even mind Naruto being a part of it since they've seen firsthand that despite his looks, he was extremely nice. Ino saw that the way this team was going, the next member would be the Kunoichi of the year and palled. She could only think of Sakura if what the pink-haired girl said was true. Sakura was giddy in her seat, just waiting for her name to be said. Deciding they've had enough suspense, announced and finally Hinata Hyuga. Well, all the girls were shocked, disappointed, and crying internally and a little bit externally. The newly made Team 7 looked confused, then pleased. Naruto took it further and cheered. Yes, Hinata did the same, but more silently. Sasuke was beyond relieved that his teammates were his closest friends. Sasuke Kwan and Hinataken. Best day ever. Nu squealed in her mind. Hinata was ecstatic that she was on a team with her 2 friends and was especially happy that Naru would be with her. Uraraka was about to announce the next team when Sakura snapped. What? Sakura exclaimed, her shock, anger, and hatred clouding her better judgment. Uraraka-sensei, the top student is always paired with the one with the highest marks. I should be on Sasuke's team, not Narutobaka. He's a nobody, she said in fury and hatred. Sakura Naruto isn't a nobody. Hokage-sama himself handpicked this team and reviewed their grades themselves. As a matter of fact, Nar was never the dead last. Uraraka stated. Ha, everyone said in shock. That's right, Hokage-sama noticed that Naruto's grades were always sabotaged, so he had to review everything personally. Turns out Nar is among the top 5 in this class. Continued, Before Sakura could say anything, Ra pressed on. And as for who had the highest marks, Hinata's scores were higher than yours. We did not just measure written test scores. We measured your physical abilities as well. While you and Hinata more or less had similar high scores on written exams, Hinata's physical exam scores were far higher. That's impossible, Narutbaka's worthless. That's all he is, Sakura exclaimed. How dare that demon steal my place on Sasuke-kwan's team? Inner Sakura hissed in pure fury. How the hell am I worthless, Sakura? I worked just as hard as Sasuke. I earned my spot here. You make it sound like he's a god, but he's no better than I am. Naruto said, starting to get sick of Sakura's one-track mind. Q.B. saw Sakura getting redder and redder from her rage, so he muttered, "Oh boy, here it comes," and covered his ears. Not that it would do him any good. All you are is a clanless orphan nobody that probably cheated to get here. Sasuke __ is an Iha, which automatically makes him a god when compared to scum like you. Sakura screamed in all her fury. Luckily, the earplugs held, though the damage got through a little. Everyone looked at the windows again, and this time they finally cracked. Finally happened. They didn't fully shatter, but close enough. Wow, I had no idea she held that much malice in her. Tage, her parents are idiots, Kit Q/B said with disgust. What was your first hint? The stalking, the abuse, or the way she talks to me, Naru thought with equal disgust. Everyone was beyond furious at the girl, knowing damn well she went too far. The fact that she said such horrible things in front of not only the class, but the instructor as well, it was bold and stupid. Naruto had to try his hardest not to use his toucan on the girl, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. Sasuke and Hinata activated their respective dojutsus in rage and began releasing their killer intent. Now Sakura was actually feeling it this time and she felt suffocated under the pressure. Haruno, you do realize that Nar is the sole heir of the Uzumaki clan, just as I'm the heir to the Iha clan. He is essentially in the same position as me, Sasuke said, his tone freezing the air around them. Everyone knew the Uzumaki clan was almost extinct, so to hear Naruto was a member of that clan was a shock. They just thought it was a name given to him due to his parents being dead. It certainly would explain his red highlights. Also, he is not a nobody. He is not scum, he did not cheat, and I am not a god in comparison. So why don't you stop listening to your prejudiced parents' words and actually think for yourself? Because the only scum I see here is you. He continued, his rage barely controlled. He was not going to stand by and let Sakura insult Naru like this. But Sakura stammered. Realizing what she said was wrong, Hinata had to reel in her rage because if she said or did anything, she knew that she would potentially hurt the pink-haired __, so, she just grabbed the edge of her desk, but she just broke it from her hard grip. Everyone was just stared, even Hinata was angry. She never showed anger over anything. What? Got something to say? You weak little __, Sakura sneered, forgetting what Sasuke said and acting only on her uncontrollable temper. This made Hinata snap and have Sakura against the wall. Haruno, I will not tolerate this behavior anymore. I am sick and tired of you treating those you think are below you like scum. You have constantly abused Naruto-kuan even though he has done absolutely nothing to warrant such hatred. If you continue to act like this, so help me, I will make sure you never use your horrible voice or your chakra ever again. Hinata threatened, not even stuttering once. To further emphasize the threat, she had a hand ready for a Juken strike to the throat. Everyone was beyond shocked by the scene. Well, I'll be damned. She has fangs after all, QB said in surprise. Why? Nu said in equal surprise. She blushed a little inside. Not used to seeing Hinata like this. Sasuke was pleased that Hinata stood up for Naru and silently cheered her on. Hinata-sanin, could you please release her? This isn't how classmates should act. Uraraka reasoned, trying to calm the Hyuga down. He was shocked and almost terrified by her anger. Hinata reluctantly let her go, knowing was right. Yeah, that's right, you white-eyed freak. Walk away, Sakura insulted. Now Naruto snapped as he used his tuck again to pull Sakura in, grabbing her by the neck. Shut or I really will become the demon you think I am. Nar threatened. He channeled some of QB's chakra throughout his body, empowering his toucan, making his eyes slitted. Sakura was petrified by this. Nar, allow me to handle this, Uraraka said, his tone a little too calm. You can tell he was holding back his anger by a great deal. Naruto would be the more intimidating of the two right now, so he let her go. Sakura started coughing from Naruto choking her. Sakura, I have been patient with how you treat your classmates, but this is out of line and uncalled for. If I hear another outburst like that again at anyone, I will go to Lord Hokage himself and have him drop you from this program. You are supposed to be a shinobi as of today, so start acting like one, hissed. He may not have been screaming, but you could feel the anger dripping from every word, every letter that he uttered, as if he was screaming. Sakura looked extremely pale and terrified at this threat, afraid to say anything else. She simply nodded rapidly. Asa continued. As I was saying before that interruption. Team 8 will consist of Sakura Haruno, Kiba Inuzuka and Shino Abaram. Ka just slammed his head on the table and said, damn it. Sakura whimpered that she wasn't on Sasuke's team. Shino was fine with Ka, but was less than pleased about Sakura, though you couldn't tell from his sunglasses and coat. Ka was obviously pissed off about being put with Sakura. Since Team 9 is still active, the last team is Team 10. They will consist of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru, Nara, and Choji Akamichi. Uraka finished. Ino groaned. She honestly didn't have anything against them since their families were really close. But she was still disappointed that she wasn't with Sasuke. Once that was done, went out to get each team's designated John and Sensei. One by one, they came and collected their teams. When Kurenai came to collect Team 8, she gave Hinata one last look before she left. Sakura tried waving Sasuke goodbye, but he refused to look at her. Disappointed, she left with her team. Now it was only Team 7 that was left in the classroom. Nu dropped her hench. Phew, not how I was hoping team selections would go. But I'm so happy I'm with you guys. Dabo, Nu said, hugging her new teammates. Yeah, Sasuke agreed. Hinata just hummed in agreement. When the blonde let her go, she asked, are you okay? Nerone, I know. Sakura said some horrible things, so, Nero appreciated her concern, put on a sad smile, and said, why, yeah, I'm fine, really. But then a tear went down her face and the two knew she wasn't fine. Naru started to crack, and when the two hugged her again, she started crying. It's okay, Sakura doesn't know what she's talking about. Don't let her get to you. Sasuke said, trying to comfort her. I know, but asterisk, it still hurts. I know I've had to deal with worse from the villagers, but it still hurts. Dadaboo, Naru sobbed. Sasuke and Hinata looked at her with worry and concern. They only knew a small part of what the villagers did, and it was horrific, inhumane. What Sakura did was probably worse since they were the same age. After a while, they calmed her down and waited for their sensei. Harrison watched the whole scene unfold in his office using his glass ball. He was feeling a mix of emotions. He was happy Nu could be herself around her new teammates. Saddened by the pain the girl was feeling, and lastly furious and disgusted by Sakura's actions. He prayed that Kurenai would be able to break the girl out of that mentality. They waited for hours and Nu knew what this meant. Kakashi was their new sensei. While she was ecstatic about it, she was still pissed about his habit of being late. In her mind, lateness worked like this. If the sensei was a few minutes late, that's understandable. 15 minutes late, blame traffic. 30 minutes, hey, __, happens. But over 3 hours, you better hope whatever you were doing was worth it, because you'd have hell to pay. What the hell is taking so long? Sasuke asked, getting more irritated with each passing minute, tempted to slam his head into the desk. Is Kakashi-sensei always like this? Hinata asked, losing her almost infinite patience. Sigh, unfortunately, knowing Kakashi, he's either reading his smut, B paying his respects again, C lost in his train of thought, or D he's watching us waste time to see what we'll do together. Naru said, knowing what had to be done. Nu made a few shadow clones and instructed them to get certain materials. Oh, this is going to be good. If only I could get popcorn in here, QB said, knowing what was going to happen. Once they headed out, Nu got out a deck of cards and asked, anyone want to play Uno? So, for the next half hour, the three were playing Uno and were having a really good time. Nu's reactions whenever she was skipped or had to draw cards was funny for everyone. Suddenly, the clones came back with several bags. Nu beamed and said, oh, you're back. Did you get everything? One clone handed her a bag and said, we sure did, boss. Everything's ready. Nu couldn't wait to get started. So, She dispelled most of the clones, leaving one to keep a lookout and got to work. What are you doing? Sasuke asked. Well, Kakashi and I is late again. So, I'm going to set up a prank just for him. Naru answered with a huge grin. Hey, are you sure that's a good idea? Narachan. What if we get in trouble? And asked, it's fine. Besides, he has this coming dadao. Sasuke thought it over and asked, what exactly are you planning? Nara's grin widened. You'll see. Want to help me out? She said, getting more eager. The Iha just shrugged and started helping. Not wanting to be left out, Hinata reluctantly helped too against her better judgment. Once they were done, the clone saw Kakashi walking down the hall and alerted them. Okay, guys, ready? Naru asked, feeling really giddy. Sasuke nodded, a small smirk on his face, and Hinata nodded shyly. The door opened, but that activated the miniature cannon on the desk, which launched small projectiles right at the Jonin. Before they hit, they then exploded in his face, leaving Kakashi looking like he took a dip in a rainbow, resembling a certain plumber when he grabs a mystical star. Naru and QB laughed their asses off at the sight. Oh my god, that was priceless. Ha ha. Laughter. Naru roared with laughter. Nice one, QB. Agreed, laughing just as hard. Hinata tried not to giggle, but some came out anyway. Sasuke smirked and clapped slowly, thinking, that girl is amazing. Whoever she gets together with is lucky. Then he frowned and the thought, wait, where the hell did that come from? And why do I care so much about that? Kakashi looked at himself and tried getting some of the dust off. Not that it'll help, I'm guessing this is my punishment for being late, Kakashi asked. Yep, I told you you'd regret it one day. Kakashi and I knew said with a toothy grin. Kakashi was a little stunned that Naru didn't have her henge active, so he said I take it they knew for a while, though he already knew the answer. Nu replied, well, Hinatakan's known for a year and Sasuke Kwan found out a few days ago. Dadabo glad that Naru could be herself around them. Kakashi I smiled and said all right, meet me on the roof in 10 minutes. With that, he vanished in a puff of smoke. Why 10 minutes? Sasuke asked. Well, he's got to clean that dust off. Come on, let's go, Naru said, racing towards the stairs. They waited for 12 minutes before Kakashi showed up again in front of them. Clean this time. All right, now for introductions. Who'd like to start? Kakashi asked. Do we have to say anything specific or? Nu asked, a little annoyed from the vague request. Kakashi just listed carelessly. Oh, you know your likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams, fetishes, favorite sexual position, that stuff. Nu choked on some of her spit as Sasuke and Hinata turned beet red. Wait, what were those last two? Nu choked out. She wasn't sure if what she heard was correct, though. This didn't help the embarrassment. Everyone felt. Harrison face-bombed himself, irritated by Kakashi's words. Seriously, did he have to bring his porn into this? Damn it, Kakashi, he bellowed, but this caused the stacks of paperwork on his desk to fly all over the place. Both paperwork he finished and hadn't gotten to just yet. Harusan just twitched a few times and started swearing, F laughter, you. Adults outside had to cover the children's ears and led them away. He was that loud and vulgar. Others were laughing their asses off. Kakashi tried playing dumb and said, I don't know what you're talking about, Naruchan. The three genin just sweat dropped, hoping their sensei was just joking, but QB took it seriously and said, my fetishes are orgies and yuri, and my favorite position has to be dash. Naru blushed a very deep shade of red and screamed, shut up. I don't need to hear that. This had the fox laughing even harder. Hinata was extremely caught off guard by Kakashi's statement and was as red as a tomato. Sasuke could have sworn his brain fried a little when he actually considered his own little fantasy. Naru groaned and said, well, why don't you start us off? You are our sensei now. So Kakashi pointed to himself in small surprise and said, me. All right, then, my name is Kakashi Hideki. I'm not sure I should tell you my likes since some are inappropriate. I don't really feel like sharing my dislikes. They're rather unpleasant. I've never really thought of my goal in life. As for hobbies, I have lots of them. Reading mostly. The three sweat dropped and thought in unison. All we get is his name. Hinata and Sasuke looked to Naru to see if there was more, but all she said was, well, the reading part could use some work since you read your smut everywhere. Hinata just covered her mouth in surprise and blushed. Sasuke just gave him a look that said, I'm watching you. Wow, was that a lame-ass introduction, and he's supposed to be your old man's student? QB deadpanned. Naru just nodded in agreement, seeing that they still didn't speak up. Kakashi decided to pick them out one at a time. All right, you first, he said, pointing at Hinata. Hinata's nerves kicked in as she began. OW, my name is Hinata Hyuga. MI likes include MI teammates, cinnamon buns, and MI little sister. Her nerves started to go away slowly the more she talked, but her stutter was still there somewhat. My dislikes are a rapist, nappers, the hidden cloud village, and bullies of any kind. She continued, remembering bad memories from her childhood. My hobbies are wrestling, training, reading, and spending time with Naruchan and my sister Hanabi-chan. My dream is to desegregate the Hyuga clan. She finished, feeling confident in achieving her dream. Kakashi nodded and thought, not bad. Her confidence is growing, but still needs some work. Her dream is pretty admirable, too. Naru and Sasuke more or less thought the same thing. Very good. You're next, Ducky, Kakashi said, referring to the Iha. Nero laughed, remembering that was what she called Sasuke a few times when they were younger because she thought his hair looked like a duck's butt. You told him about that? Sasuke exclaimed. Nu just nodded. She couldn't stop laughing, sighing. He started his introduction. My name is Sasuke Iha. I like training, learning new jutsus, my mother and brother, and a certain girl. Sasuke started quickly, glancing at Naru before looking at the floor again. Nu noticed this and blushed. He likes me, she thought. Kit, I've been telling you this all week. All he did was just confirm it. Are you that dense? Bai said, he likes me. He really likes me. Nu cheered in her mind. I dislike hypocrites, fangirls, and those that are power hungry. My hobbies are reading, training, and hanging out with Nu. As for my dream, I plan to make it a reality. I'm going to bring in a certain man to justice and protect what's left of my family. I also wish to one day surpass my brother, Itachi, Sasuke continued. He still wanted revenge on Danzo for what he did, but he knew it would take years before he hit that level, no matter what training he took. Naru couldn't help but smile. Proud of Sasuke for not obsessing over revenge. Kakashi took note of this and thought, interesting. And here I thought Sasuke would have the mindset of an avenger. Looks like Naruchan kept him in check the whole time. Kakashi nodded. All right then, your last little sunshine, he said, referring to Naru. The girl beamed at him, remembering he used to call her that sometimes. Naru giggled a little at the old nickname and started, well, my name's Naruto Uzumaki, but I like going by Nu. I like ramen training, Makoto, Basin, Pervy, Sage, Hokage, Ira, Sensei, Hinataken, and Sasuke Kwan. Both of her teammates smiled when she mentioned them. My hobbies are training, pulling pranks, and hanging out with Hinataken and Sasuke Kwan. My dream is to be Hokage and be strong enough to protect those I cherish. Also, Nu started to blush as she said, I'd like to have a family one day, Dabio. Everyone couldn't help but smile at Naru's words, but there was one thing she left out. And what about your dislikes? Kakashi asked. Nu's mood went down fast. She said, I don't like people who are selfish, power-hungry, prejudiced, or arrogant. And I really don't like the villagers because they embody everything I hate. Sasuke and Hinata each held Naru's hand as a way to comfort her, which she greatly appreciated. Kakashi knew the girl had been put through a lot because of them, which was why he started raising the girl behind the civilian council's back, as well as the elders. Now he was just glad the girl didn't have to go through this pain alone. Okay, now that introductions are done, let's talk about our first exercise, Kakashi stated. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, wondering what it was his new sensei meant. And that is, Sasuke asked. Kakashi gave another eye smile and said, I was hoping you'd ask that. Simply put, survival training. Hinata tilted her head slightly in confusion and asked, but sensei, didn't we already do this training in the academy? Kakashi nodded and said, you did, but this will be different as I will be your opponent. This gained the trio's attention immediately. All the other Jonin teams will be doing something similar. Graduation exam was to see if you had the potential to be ninja. This survival training is to see if you have the right to truly be a shinobi of the village. And here's the best part. Out of the several teams selected, only 3 teams pass, meaning there's a 66% chance of failing. He continued, his tone dead serious. Everyone gulped at this, realizing the stakes placed in front of them. Relax. It'll be a simple test, nothing too bad, Kakashi reassured. You'll meet me at training ground 7 tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your test. Nu just deadpanned. Are you actually going to be there at that time, or are you going to be there late again? Kakashi just ruffled Nu's hair and said, I'll let you figure that out, Narachan. Nu giggled at Kakashi's antics. Also, I suggest you all don't eat breakfast. You'll puke if you do. See you tomorrow, Kakashi said before exploding in white dense smoke, leaving the three alone on the roof. Naru, you know him better than us. Is he serious? Sasuke asked. Mostly he's late to everything by 3 hours at least. So if he says meet him at 5 a.m., he really means 8 a.m., which makes more sense. Naru explained. Hinata nodded, taking in the information and asked, but what about breakfast? Naru simply said, don't skip it. Hinata, trust me, we won't be able to function without it. Which reminds me, I should probably pack some backup food for us for tomorrow, just in case. Sasuke's eyes widened a little and asked, wait, you can cook? Nu suddenly seemed more bashful as she said timidly, well, yeah, I mean, I don't do it often, but I can do it. Sasuke nodded, now extremely curious about how the girl's cooking tasted. Well, what do you guys think about having dinner together to celebrate today? Nu asked. Oh, sorry, Naruchan, I'd love to, but I have to report to father about today and maybe tomorrow. Hinata apologized. Naru gave an understanding smile and said, it's okay. Tomorrow's good. Hinata smiled back and said, okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. With that, she leapt down into the streets and walked home to the Hyuga compound. Nu just turned to Sasuke and asked, so, what about you? Sasuke thought about it and said, sure, but on one condition. Nu suddenly got a little nervous and asked, okay, Dub, what is it? Sasuke looked Naru in the eye and said, Noaku tonight. I'd actually like to try your cooking. Nu blinked a few times before blushing madly at what Sasuke requested. Why you want Emi to see cook for Wu? Are you sure? I mean, I might make something bad and you'd hate it and I'd have to make it up to you and I wouldn't know what to think of. And why do I keep rambling? Datao, Nu said, her nerves going into overdrive. Sasuke just nodded, and Naru asked shyly, okay, do you want to eat at my place? Her face got redder as she asked that. Sasuke didn't know why she was embarrassed by that question, but said, sure. I'll let mom know. Naru started nodding frantically and said, okay, great. Is there anything you'd like me to make? Sasuke thought about it for a minute and said, surprise me. Naru beamed a little and said, oh, okay. Meet me at my place at 5. Okay, yeah, I'll be there. Sasuke said, suddenly feeling a little excited. Great. I got to start cooking. So I'll see you later. Nu said, giving Sasuke a quick hug before leaving to her apartment. Sasuke's brain took a second to comprehend that Nu just hugged him and he liked it. Wait, did she ask me on a date just now? Sasuke thought. While he's gotten offers like that before, it actually sounded fun when it was coming from Nu. Deciding to just go with that, Sasuke went back home to get ready. Man, it's a good thing Makoto-san bought stuff for me earlier or I'd be screwed. But what do I make? Naru thought as she ran along the rooftops. She didn't like walking through the streets alone since she didn't have her henjon still and she didn't want to hear any more hurtful words today. Hey kid, I don't suppose you remember what you just did to that Akia before you left, Q said, wanting to see her reaction. It took Naru a second to recall. But when she did, she blushed again and almost fell in an alleyway. I hugged Sasuke-kwan. I mean, I know he's hugged me before, but I started it this time, Dabo. Nu exclaimed in her head. Sick it, you've got it bad for him. And you do realize you invited him to your place to have your cooking. Any of this mean anything? QB exasperated, putting the pieces together. Nu got redder and said, did I just ask him on a date? It might as well be, Kit. Now, seeing as this is your first date, I have some advice that might help. Advice? How do I know it's not just some perverted idea you have in your sick furry head? That'll humiliate me, Naru accused Kit. I may be a pervert, but I still respect a woman. And even I know that if you want to have a date, it has to be nice. Now, considering this is just a dinner that you're providing, I suggest you make something you know that you and the boy would like. Can you think of anything? Q said in a serious tone. Nu was actually surprised the tailed beast was even showing interest in helping her with something like this. By this point, Naru entered her apartment and said, Well, Sasuke-kwan likes tomatoes, and he's not a fan of anything too sweet. I've seen him eat spicy food before, so maybe curry. Makoto Basin makes it a lot, so he'll like it for sure. QB nodded his head and said, curry. Not a bad choice, Kit, though. I don't remember you ever making it. Oh, how hard could it be? Makoto Basin gave me a cookbook, so it should be easy. Dadabo, Naru said as she grabbed the cookbook she had on her shelf. It was one of the few things that was still intact from the constant breaking and entering her apartment experiences. Sasuke got home pretty quickly and announced, "Hey, I'm home." Makoto came out from around the corner and greeted Sasuke-chan. "How team selections go? I hope you got a good team." Sasuke nodded and said, "I did. Nu and Hinatan are my teammates and Kakashi's our sensei." Makoto gasped and said, "Really? That's great. Wait, where's Naruto now?" Sasuke rubbed the back of his neck and said, "Actually, she invited me over to her place. She wanted to eat out to celebrate, but I said I wanted to try her cooking. She got all red, but she was fine with it." Makoto processed what she heard and a sly grin came on her face. "So, you're finally going on a date, huh?" Sasuke blushed and retorted, "I don't even know if this is a date. Besides, it's not that big of a deal." A lot of people would beg to differ, but Makoto knew Sasuke was stubborn, so she let him be. "So, when are you supposed to meet her?" Makoto asked, hoping he'd say that much. She said to be at her apartment at 5 o'clock. Sasuke responded, going upstairs to get ready. Makoto was proud of both of them. Since Sasuke had some time to kill before meeting Nu, he got in some last-minute training before he jumped in the shower. Once he did that and got dressed, he headed out, constantly being teased by Makoto and now Itachi about his date with Nu. While the thought of this being a date wasn't bad, he didn't know how Nu saw it, so he didn't want to make her uncomfortable. As he was getting near the apartment complex, he noticed Sakura close by. Not wanting to deal with her, he chose to go the rest of the way by the rooftops. Sasuke approached Nu's apartment and knocked on her door. A few seconds later, Nu came out and said, "Hi, Sasuke." "Hey." Sasuke greeted back looking at what Naru was wearing. The girl was wearing only the pants from her tracksuit and the t-shirt she normally wears underneath her jacket. However, since she was cooking, she also had an apron on. "He's checking you out, Kit. Normally, I would have recommended wearing just the apron, but I'll let it slide this time." QB commented in her head. "There's no way in hell I would do that, Dadabo. I'm embarrassed enough as it is." Nu whined in her head. She cleared her throat and said, "Well, come on in. I just finished cooking. I hope it tastes good, Dabo." Sasuke walked inside, still disliking Nu's living conditions. How she survived in a rat hole like this, he had no idea. Then again, she always was unpredictable. There was a small table in the kitchen that could seat 2 people. Sasuke sat down as Nu got the food ready. Then she placed the plates on the table and was surprised by what Naru served. It was curry with chicken on the side. "Curry?" Sasuke asked. "Why, I didn't know what else to make that we'd both like. And curry was the first thing that popped into my head." So Naru tried explaining. She sat down too and said, "Well, I hope you like it." Sasuke took his fork, grabbed a nice portion of the meal, and proceeded to eat it. He was surprised yet again. The curry was really good. It wasn't spicy like the famous fire curry his mom was famous for, but it was still delicious. "Eso, how is it?" Naru asked nervously. Sasuke looked up at her and said, "This is great." Naru beamed and said, "Really?" Sasuke nodded rapidly and continued to devour his meal. Nu let out a sigh of relief and said, "I'm really glad you like it. It took me forever to make this, even with the cookbook." Then she started to eat, too, and she was definitely satisfied with the meal she made. Sasuke kept eating and said, "I can't believe your food's this good. Had I known, I would have been asking for your cooking all the time." Nu blushed and said, "And my cooking can't be that good. I am sure you've had better." Sasuke automatically stopped eating and grabbed Nu's hand, saying, "You should know better than anyone that I never exaggerate, especially with you." Nu felt her face heat up even more from this. "Thank you, T. That means a lot, Dadabo," she said with a shy smile. Sasuke nodded, resumed eating, and asked, "How'd you learn to cook so good?" "Well, Makoto Basin taught me while you were out training. And she gave me the cookbook I mentioned earlier." Naru replied with some pride in her voice. "That would explain why it tastes so good," Sasuke thought. They eventually finished, and Sasuke helped Nu with the dishes. Once they finished, Nu said with a smile, "I'm really glad you like the food." Sasuke-kwan, "Yeah, it was great. Any chance you'd be willing to cook again?" Sasuke asked. Naru beamed and said, "Why, yeah, I'd love to." Then the two noticed the time. It was past 7:00 p.m. They spent almost the whole evening eating and enjoying each other's company. "Wow, it's late. Are you going to be okay heading home?" Sasuke-kwan Nu asked with concern. "I'll be fine, but what about you?" Sasuke asked. The young Uzumaki just tilted her head in confusion. And just to confirm Sasuke's worries, they heard voices outside the complex. They all sounded angry, full of hate. Naru used her Sukin to check what was going on outside and groaned, "Another mob. Damn it, Sasuke-kwan, you have to leave before they find you." Sasuke smirked and said, "I have a better idea. Grab all your things." Nu stared at him in confusion, but did as he said. She managed to pack a bag full of everything she owned, which wasn't a lot. Just some clothes, her ninja tools, weapons, her books, and emergency ramen. "Okay, now what?" Naru asked, lifting the bag. Sasuke just put his hand on her shoulder and mimicked a jutsu he's seen over 1,000 times. Makoto and Itachi were about to head upstairs for bed, but then Sasuke and Naru appeared in a puff of smoke. "Sasuke-chan, Naru-chan," Makoto asked, startled by their sudden appearance. Itachi was also surprised, but automatically knew what the two did. "So, you mastered the Shuin, Sasuke?" he asked his younger brother. Instead of answering, Sasuke looked a little green in the face. "Not really." Naru was a little better, however, so she just face-palmed herself and groaned. "Seriously, Sasuke-kun, if you wanted me to spend another night, you could have just asked Dadabo." Once Sasuke started feeling okay, he explained what happened before they made their escape to Makoto and Itachi. Sai knew this would happen eventually. "Naru-chan, I don't think it's safe for you to go back to your apartment. You're more than welcome to stay with us," Makoto said warmly. Naru just sputtered, "Are you sure? I mean, I don't want to be imposing on you guys, and you don't really have a guest room for me or anything. Plus, people would find out eventually, and the mobs would just come here instead." "Dadabo." Makoto just walked up to Naru, flicked her nose, wrapped her in a hug, and said, "I'd like to see them try that. If they do, they'd be trespassing and they get arrested or worse. Naru-chan, please stay with us." Nu froze at what Makoto said. She wanted her to stay, and from the looks of it, the others were all agreeing. Naru returned the hug and said, "All right, but where will I sleep?" Makoto simply said, "Well, you could bunk with Sasuke-chan as long as he knows how to behave." She gave Sasuke an intimidating stare that made him just nod a lot. A little later, Naru was already changed into her pajamas and really red in the face. Only a few days ago, Sasuke learned about her true self. In that short time, they've already gotten closer than ever, had dinner together multiple times, slept together, not in the dirty way, and now she was moving in with him. She wondered if this was happening too fast, but Sasuke pulled her out of her thoughts. "Nu, you all right? You were staring off," he asked. "Ready for bed, too?" Nu shook her head and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a lot on my minds, that's all." Sasuke figured that was the case. A lot happened between them in such a short amount of time. She must be overwhelmed. The two went into bed and fell asleep, unconsciously inching closer to each other until they were cuddling again. Sasuke's alarm woke him up, and he slowly remembered what happened the previous day. The team selections, his date with Nu, if it even counted as a date, and her moving in with him and his family. Turning slowly, he saw Naru once again practically sleeping on top of him. How the hell did she sleep through the alarm? Sasuke started shaking her, saying, "Naru, come on, get up." Nothing. Q.B. tried helping out from in her head, saying, "Kid, get off your lazy ass and wake up already." Still nothing. So Sasuke came up with an idea. "Nu, wake up, your emergency ramen's burning," he said. Her eyes flew wide open, bloodshot as she activated her toucan and panicked. And oh, not the ramen. Who's burning it? Naru looked over to see Sasuke holding a cup of ramen over a match. "Me," Sasuke plainly said. Naru fell over from the blatant answer and pleaded, "Sasuke-kwan, please don't hurt the ramen. Please." Sasuke smirked and said, "If you want nothing bad to happen to it, get out of bed and get ready." We have to be at the training grounds in an hour. Nu noticed the time and panicked even more as she ran around to get her things ready. After getting everything prepared and having breakfast, Nu made a few bento boxes before she and Sasuke left for the training grounds. Luckily, hardly anyone was awake at this time, so Naru just went out without her henjin. By the time they arrived, Hinata was already waiting for them. "Morning, Hinaten. I hope we didn't keep you waiting," Nu said in a chipper tone. Hinata smiled and said, "Good morning. I actually just got here. So, since we have some time to kill, any ideas on how the test is going to go?" Sasuke asked. Naru held her chin in a thoughtful pose and said, "Well, I don't know much about Kakashi I's tests since he hardly tells me anything about them. All he told me was the saying his old teammate told him." What was the saying? Hinata asked. "I think it went like this. Those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worse than scum." He said it was something he uses to judge teams, Naru answered. All three had a vague idea of what the test would be based on those powerful words alone. After about 30 minutes, Kakashi showed up and said sheepishly, "Sorry I'm late, I saw a black cat and had to take the long way around." Everyone's sweat dropped at their sensei's excuse. Kakashi and you can just say you were reading your smut, you know. Besides, we got here a little while ago." Naru deadpanned. Kakashi's sweat dropped too and thought, "Well, this is what I get for having my sensei's daughter as my student." Kakashi recovered and said, "Well, here's what our survival training session is going to entail." Then he held up 2 small silver bells and said, "All you have to do is take these bells from me before that timer rings. It's set to noon, and whoever doesn't get one when it rings gets tied to that pole and watches while the others eat lunch." That's why he didn't want us to eat breakfast. Everyone thought in unison, and Sasuke and Hinata were glad they listened to Nu. Sensei to "There's only 2 bells and there's T3 of us. So is one of us guaranteed to not get one." Hinata spoke up. Kakashi smiled and said very observant, "Yes, that's right, and whoever still doesn't get a bell after lunch gets sent back to the academy." Everyone stared at him wide-eyed. But their minds were already working this out. Sending one of us back. He couldn't pass us then because there's no such thing as a Twoman squad. Naru thought, "You can use any weapons you have at your disposal. Come at me with the intent to kill. You won't get a bell otherwise." Kakashi advised. First he tries to divide us with the bells. Now he's encouraging we take him head-on in order to get a bell. Does he really think that'll work on us? Sasuke thought. "Well, start on my mark. Ready." Kakashi started. If that's the case, then the point of this test, Hinata thought, beginning to put the pieces together. The point of this test is everyone thought in unison, go teamwork.